Welcome back, everybody, to the moment that you have all been waiting for, the NACE Star League 2023 Spring Playoffs. I am Nurse, and I'm joined here by a new face, maybe for some of you. Dak is here with us today. How you doing, man?
Nice to be here. Nice to be here. Yeah, it's been a little while since last season, but I was more than happy to jump right in and get into some playoff action. I love some cruise playoffs. It's always an exciting time here on the broadcast, so happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I think they got a good game for us as well, hopping into round one of the playoffs. We're going to see Full Sail up against Michigan Tech, the 8 and 9 seed, coming into this series. And so not only did we get a very close seed, but we also got, two teams that have had very, very solid records throughout the regular season. And if you guys didn't know, after this crew battle, there's more to watch. Rainbow Six is also coming up next. So if you're into that, a little bit of cross-game action happening today as we look at the schedule here.
Yeah, and as you said, these two teams very well stocked record-wise. Full Sail Armada 6-0 in their season. You can see Rickster, Kenshin, Wild, KB Uncut, and P lining up their roster. And then Michigan Tech, the Huskies, 5-1 in their season. Geyser, Noko, Psych, Mac, and Carp coming out. We've seen a little bit of these teams throughout the season, and I've even casted, I believe, Michigan Tech from last season. I recognize a lot of these players, but can't wait to see these two duke it out. It is the round of 16, and I don't believe either of these teams have played each other yet this season, even this year so far. So a lot on the table for them to discover between these two rosters.
Yeah, that's when stuff starts to get spicy. A couple of times throughout the season, we've had teams who have played against each other before, and we've actually seen adaptations made throughout, a series to series basis. Unfortunately, right here in the playoffs where everything matters, you get a best of 3. You get one chance to mess up, and you better hope that the other 2 count.
Yep. That's the thing actually about NACE a lot of the time, is that you have like a lot of opportunities all the way up until like that final bracket. Like you can last chance qualifiers, you got the the conference finals, like the actual season itself. There's so much room to like improve and make changes. But once you get to this stage, that's it. Like there's no other room for error here. And I think by now, and this is what I love about playoffs, is the teams have really kind of figured out their strategies, how they play players, in what order, what characters they're fielding. And we kind of get the best of the best, which makes sense because we're in the playoffs. But I think that pressure really starts to build up once you don't have a way out.
Yeah, and I think that's what separates the good teams from the great, is as we know, this is not even a double elimination bracket. This is you lose and you're out
and you're gone. Yeah.
There's no we'll get them next week. There's no we're playing a round robin, so we got a couple more teams to play. That's your season. And so I think it's exactly like you said. These teams have been building synergy, they've been building confidence, they've been building all of those things throughout kind of the duration of the regular season. Now it's time to see if you're able to execute. Are you able to bring that level of play to the highest stress situation that you're going to be in all season? And I think it's going to be really interesting to see who steps up, because sometimes it's those teams that you don't expect, and those teams with nothing to lose can come out with a little bit of a skip in their step.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Some of these teams are just like, they're ready to kind of throw out some of the riskier strats here, which I love to see, and sometimes the riskier character picks as well. So I'm excited to see like what edge these teams create for themselves going into this. And in fact, speaking of getting into it, we are literally getting into it right now. We have Kenshin and Noko as our first 2 players kicking things off between Full Sail and Michigan Tech.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited, and there's no better way to start it off with Captain Falcon and Palutena. A couple of characters we expect a little bit of a faster pace on, and absolutely Kenshin is giving us that right off the hop.
Yeah, I mean, this is a matchup at a low mid-percents. It's a slugfest. Both of these characters are so good at racking up multiple hits and damage at low to mid-percents that it's essentially a slobber knocker here. You're already seeing a lot of that. And now finally, as we start to get to 30-40%, they're starting to space each other out a little bit and look for ways to get some stage control and keep each other off.
And I think parts of this matchup where we see these guys slow down, or we see the neutral kind of start to look like this, is because they know how explosive both of these characters are and how much one hit can kind of go all the way. And we're seeing right now, Noko has been pushing this advantage state further and further and further.
And not a bad start here with Palutena as your first character too. That kind of gives you like a pretty solid coverage into a blind pick situation. Like Palutena just has such a good matchup spread. Like you might not be able to guarantee getting kills at high percent, but Noko having no problem doing that. The classic back air makes it happen. Now it's on Kenshin to try and get back into this one.
Something we've seen all season too is sometimes when people pick these, quote unquote, safe top tiers, they have a little bit of trouble killing, or they don't have that explosive kind of comeback potential that characters like Captain Falcon have. It's up to Noko and up to Michigan Tech really to trust that Noko is able to find these kills, play this neutral, and not, kind of get cheesed by those really big hits coming out from Captain Falcon, and Kenshin able to call out that hop off the ledge with a down smash.
Yeah, for a little while there, Noko was looking pretty comfortable in neutral, and then kind of does a little bit of a lazy jump in nair off the ledge, and that's just waiting with the down smash from Kenshin. So now a little bit closer, obviously still almost a full stock here.
That's the jump.
Yeah, that was, should be it, yep. Noko, really good call out there on the jump. Kenshin had an opportunity to start building some momentum, and then just a couple stray hits from Noko sent him flying, and they couldn't get back.
And it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Those few hits, just that neutral loss can lead to so much, especially when you have reads like that coming out from Noko, taking those jumps early and securing 45% right off the hop. Kenshin really needs to find some sort of string right now against Palutena.
It's that juggle ability that Palu has, especially against Falcon. That up air just keeps him at the worst position up in the air, whereas I feel like Falcon can't really do that same kind of juggling to Palu. So that's just a lot of free damage that Palutena can get in this matchup that a lot of times Falcon has a big, chore to try to make up that difference.
And that up air definitely would have been it, a heads-up air dodge coming out from Kenshin. But we're seeing right now a lot of big options coming out, the down smashes, the up smashes. Kenshin knows that he needs to take this stock. He knows that it needs to come off sooner rather than later. And a back air by the ledge will do it, but he's been looking for these big options and letting go of advantageous opportunities. That also could have been it.
A few kills should have probably happened already, but just like the waiting charged up smashes come out first. Oh, a nice call out on the jump with the up B there. So that's actually a pretty huge stock. I mean, Noko probably takes this, but getting that second stock off really keeps things close for full sale.
Just wait.
Oh, you almost had it. That down it. Yeah, it's not over till it's over with Falcon. You're right.
You could definitely smell blood in the water. And actually, I thought he was going to read that air dodge coming out from Noko off stage, but Noko thankfully picking the right option, able to keep this stock. But even at 54, this can get scary. If Kenshin's able to find a Nair 1, it could be it. It could be curtains, but the back air should do the trick right now. And the patient game coming out from Noko, the back airs almost feeling inevitable at that percent will secure the first three stocks there.
Yeah, Kenshin, honestly, I think just kind of their own worst enemy a lot of the time. Some of these just huge committal options that aren't going to net kills really kind of, bit them in the butt. I mean, even that last situation there, you're going for up B on stage at 56. Like, it's a good call out, but it's so risky, and you're throwing out no disjoint hitbox. I mean, it's Falcon, but still, like, that's a move that you're not really worried about taking at 56. So a nice call out by Noko. Those back airs were great, but we were talking about the having nothing to lose effect. When you're at high percent, you just can't close out that kill, and that Falcon's starting to rack things up. Like, oh, this is not where you want to be. And thankfully that back air came out just in time.
It could be scary, man. It could be so scary, especially like you said, when you get to like 130, 140, 150, you're like, this guy will not die.
Like, what's happening? Like, where's my kill?
You're watching up smashes just fly. You're watching down smashes fly. It can be scary. Thankfully, I think Palutena is one of the better characters in the game at making sure that doesn't happen. Just due to the invincibility on back air and dash attack, she's able to kind of, marginalize some of her own mistakes with those moves. And so, like I said, I think Noko did a really good job of making sure that didn't happen, because there's a world where it did. We saw the moves and options being picked. I think if I'm Captain Falcon, especially in those lead situations, I would love to see more kind of not hard reads, because we saw a lot of those up smash committals not really turn into anything, but kind of just option coverage. So going for like the back air preemptively into trying to catch a roll, or even doing down smash, which just has more coverage than up smash does, and kills by the ledge, a little later, but roughly at the same percent. I think you find a lot more value there. Yeah,
I mean, the first kill, I believe, for Kenshin was a down smash on that jump in with the Nair. Yeah, and the great thing about it is you have that hitbox shift, so if you miss, Falcon like leans back, and like if you whiff, like you can actually get away from the follow-up. So Yeah, it's not a bad option. I feel like honestly, just especially with Falcon, like just stand there, maybe hold shield. You get so much off of grab, like just hang out. Like at the very least, you're not taking a shot to the dome. But now we have our next character match. We're waiting to see who's coming in next. Kenshin was the Falcon. So for, I believe, Full Sail, they have Rickster, who I believe is a Zelda. They have Uncut, who's Sonic, and then Wild, who's Lucas. So Zelda, Sonic, Lucas coming in against a Palo. Who do you think is the most likely?
I'd say Sonic is probably the most likely, just matchup wise, but I think this is going to be getting into comfort pick territory. Yeah, I think Palutena does strong enough against all of those characters that you're just kind of asking all those guys, okay, who here feels the best against Palutena? And we've seen a lot throughout the regular season that, comfort picks can kind of override matchups a lot of the time. If people are just confident in a specific matchup, the character doesn't always matter so much. And so even though I think Palutena probably comes out on top of this matchup pretty solidly, if Wild is comfortable in it, there's only one stock to take off.
Yeah, and I think too they probably don't want to burn like Sonic so early and get him caught into a matchup they might not want to be in, or a Zelda like Lucas. It's like a pretty safe investment. Like, if you want to keep the Sonic for the anchor, I think Zelda is a nice, like, cheesy pick you can throw in as maybe, like, all right, like, again, like a comfort pick. Like, I know someone's good against this. The Lucas, I don't think is a huge investment. Yeah, we'll see, though. I mean, so far, Noko has not gone down easy. If they can take off at least a stock here from Wild, that's not bad. Not a bad two-stock lead pickup they'd have for Michigan Tech.
Missing the sweet spot on that confirm, though, is going to mean that Noko's going to get back to center stage, and Full Sail, willing to swing. Without a doubt. The down smash here, though, could be huge, and actually not going for it. I feel like that's a missed opportunity from Wild. The down smash is particularly strong against Palutena's recovery.
That's what I love about this team, is that they paid that money to buy this game, the DLC. They're going to press those buttons. They spent that money. They're going to press those buttons. I love it.
Hey, man, you only have full value if you use every single smash
exactly.
attack, so I want to see everything coming out. And
if your APM is not at 400 while you're playing, I don't know what you're doing.
Okay, wow. And the sweet spot forward tilt not going to quite kill, but the next one will, and actually finally ripping the down smash, but a little bit late. But at 145%, this is when Lucas's throws all start kind of killing, and so you have to be a little scared if you're Noko, but that ledge situation doesn't quite go his way. And
wow, that was risky.
I mean, so lucky that the last hit there, because that definitely would have been the stock. And now 153 at the ledge. Almost anything from Lucas is going to kill at this percent. Wild just has to find it in the PK fire, the last couple frames of activity, man.
Of all things to hit right there. And you could tell that Noko was kind of looking to try to shield poke, like the constant aerials on shield. Lucas's shield was barely there, but you're hitting with back air, which like barely penetrates on shield. Like you can't get any traction with that. So Noko unable to take that last stock. So we're back to even between these two teams.
Yeah, and I think that demonstrates kind of how close it was, because Noko definitely had an opportunity. We saw, right before the end there, Noko actually got Lucas pretty deep off stage, had a back air opportunity on the tether, and ended up just missing it by a little bit. But had that timing been just slightly better, we could have seen a stock lead going into this next match. And so I think that kind of also highlights why this best of 3 format is so important, because stocks like that can change the pace of the entire crew battle, right? It is possible, if everything remains even, that stock would have been the difference maker.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And I'm probably even thinking these teams are probably thinking about the next game already, even though not necessarily like, oh, this is over, but more like, how can we already like establish an edge going to the next one? Like, do we start with the Palu? Like Noko, I believe, has a secondary Wolf. Like, do you put him in later or put them in later with the Wolf instead of the Palu? I think honestly both characters are fine, but like stuff like that they're trying to think about, because now I'm looking at the Huskies lineup. They've got a Bowser, DDD, and Greninja. There's a weird lineup. You have like not as good Fox and 2 heavies. So how do you really kind of work with that? How do you kind of turn those lemons into lemonade against a roster that still has a Lucas, still has a Zelda, and still has a Sonic waiting for you on the other side?
Yeah, it gets harder from here if you're
it really does.
Michigan Tech.
Understatement.
It gets harder from here, I'll tell you that much.
No.
I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of the life of playing those characters, but I will say characters like DDD, characters like Bowser, we've seen players find success with those characters throughout the regular season, and a lot of it is preying on those nerves, and that's what heavies do.
Yep.
Especially in Smash Ultimate, where little mistakes are common, even at a very high level of play. Heavies just eat you alive for those mistakes, and so in a playoff situation where the pressure's high, like we were talking about, and it's single elimination, it's potential that one F smash goes the wrong way, or one Bowser up smash goes the wrong way, and all of a sudden, what happened? The season's over, man. Like, what happened?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Like that's something that's always in the back of players' minds, I think, is like, am I going to lose this stock over some BS like heavy thing? And now you have the added pressure being in playoffs. You don't want to be the reason your team doesn't advance to the next round. On that note, though, Full Sail has a Zelda, which I think has this similar frustrating qualities to play against of a heavy, So like, I feel like it's almost kind of even there because Zelda just like triggers the same like, I don't know, thing in my head as
just
I
the
have
fight or flight response. Like.
Yeah, like the Phantom Knight kind of makes it feel like she's almost a heavy too. So there's that factor for Full Sail as well to kind of bring in this character that can frustrate you and kind of tilt you in a way to make mistakes. So it's nice to have that character. It's good to have your honest characters you can rely on, but there's also good to have those characters that are either a little cheesy or a little tilting that might not be as good, but on Wi-Fi with the right matchup, that could be the X factor you need.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm from the region in Canada that has the best Zelda in Canada, so like, I'll tell you time and time again, man, if you're having a bad day, you will lose to that character. You will.
I'm always having a bad day playing that character, let alone losing to them, so...
Yeah, I think you make a great point with that, where you're right, there's characters on both sides that can kind of play both sides of the coin, and even a character like Lucas, I think, has some really, really strong kill potential and stuff like fair, down smash, even, the Zair strings into really deep down airs off stage, and I think part of it is Lucas can always go deeper than you expect. Like, you never expect him to get down there, and now the DDD is out, and I don't know if this is the choice I maybe would have made, but it's so hard because the character roster, I mean, it's not great no matter what.
No, it's really not. And again, it could come down to just, who likes this matchup the most out of our last three players, but certainly already you can all tell what the issues this matchup can definitely have for DDD. Like, can easily get comboed, but look at the damage output. That is really the balancing factor, is that, okay, Lucas can combo DDD hard, but DDD only needs to win 1 or 2 interactions out of 10 to keep things close.
Yeah, and a big thing too is if you aren't familiar with this matchup on the other side, like if you aren't comfortable dealing with Gordo or you aren't comfortable dealing with multiple jumps, DDD can actually be a very hard character to fight against.
Absolutely, yeah. You can definitely tell with some players who get uncomfortable around Gordo, like aren't comfortable hitting it back, and they kind of let it stay active, and that's what the DDD player wants. And you can tell Psych is not really... gonna subscribe to that for too long, instead going into throw hands, almost gets the kill. PK Fire will keep that Gordo at bay, but over 100% has to be careful, and then up tilt catching, and that's gonna be the first kill.
That move is deceptively good, man. Deceptively good. It's fast and
always
it
has
kills.
Been.
Yeah,
it has been.
It really, really is. And I think we just saw there another X Factor move that DDD has is actually Inhale. Being able to B reverse that and come down with a command grab mix-up is something that is unironically really, really good on the side of DDD.
Yeah, not only that, but also using the Inhale to fire the Gordo kind of gives a little bit of a response or counterplay to like a lot of PK Fire heavy play, because when Lucas is at that range, you have that time to Inhale and use the Gordo, so it's a nice little check against that. And now we're almost at a full stock lead here for Psych, who has come in and has turned the Jets on, potentially the Jet Hammer, but so far hasn't gone for it at 163. Trying to come back.
No way!
Lands with the up B and gets the kill, flattens that Lucas. Now has a 2-stock lead.
That's knowledge. That's actually knowledge. That means that you know that he watched the VOD. He had to. There's no way that he didn't, man. You are not ready to let that rip. The armor on the up B going through Lucas's own up B to get a full punish and a stock at 90%. An answer back finally from Wild, but the damage has more than been done.
Really solid call out there by Psych. Full stock lead here, putting Michigan Tech in the lead for the first time so far in this matchup, and looking to potentially get a 2-stock lead for Michigan Tech, which would be great, as they know they still have that Sonic for Full Sail they got to deal with, and I wouldn't blame them trying to have as many stocks as they can going into that one.
Yeah, this is looking so grim for Wild. Seemingly unable to just kind of adapt Lucas's floatiness to the up tilt and the forward air kind of spacing from DDD. We've never seen him really able to control that airspace, and honestly, we haven't even seen him able to contest Gordo that well. And this Stockman is on borrowed time at the ledge here.
Oh, that could have even been a stock right there if Psyche had been in position for it. Now looking for these back airs, going to fish form. F tilt, not going to kill. Next shot likely will, though. One of these Gordo striking, and the dash attack.
Dash attack!
Trying to hide behind the Gordo to get it in, and unfortunately doesn't land.
Wow, no way. Well, he actually snuck that in, man. No, it's
wow.
Caught Wild a little bit asleep at the wheel as that Gordo came out, but looking really good for a 2-stock lead for Michigan Tech. And like you said, that matchup, not something that we would have considered good on paper, but comfortability, you know, actual played experience and how good someone feels against a character. And we saw on the side of Psych, there was some matchup knowledge there. There was some preparation there for moments really big, kind of stock, and honestly, like kind of could be crew battle defining moments like that up B.
I honestly think that was a pivotal moment right there, because that establishes for them a really huge 2-stock lead. And the DDD being, I mean, that's one nice thing about having a bunch of heavies on your roster at a crew battle situation, is those heavies are going to stay alive longer, which means that they're more likely to hold on to that stock going into the next matchup. So having that DDD who was stock tanking literally for their team in a way, it really kind of makes up that difference of not having as many like meta or better characters, quote unquote. Is just having that kind of tankiness, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, and we saw that game living to 160 before, you know, he was finally taking stock off of him and feeling comfortable at 100. I think if you're on the side of Full Sail, you need to really think about who you're sending in next. You need to be really careful, because I've seen it too many times where crew battles just get out of hand from this point, right? And, you know, you couldn't kill the DDD, and you still can't kill the DDD, and you want to save your best player for last, so you send in someone who you think will do okay at it, and then your best player is trying to make a 7-stock comeback or something like that, right? Like, it happens over and over and over, so they need to make sure that this is dealt with pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is not a situation I envy them, because it comes down to, do they use the Zelda or the Sonic? Do they keep the Sonic as the anchor, or do they put the Sonic in thinking, okay, the Sonic is more likely to get rid of this Bowser quicker and can't really get super hard counterpicked, or I'm sorry, the DDD, and can't get kind of hard counterpicked by the Bowser or the Greninja? Like, do you want your Zelda as your anchor? I guess they do, because they're putting in KB, coming in as that Sonic, and looking, I think this is probably the right choice. In a crew battle situation, you want to stop the bleeding, you know? Like, you never want to be in a situation where, like, okay, we'll make it up later, because a lot of the time it's way harder than it sounds to make it up. Even the best of players, it's hard for them to make up a lot of stocks. Like, just the war of attrition grinds them down. And so now I think that's what they're realizing. Like, we need to get rid of this DDD ASAP. We can't afford to lose potentially another character to this one, so we're going to take him out quick.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And even, you know, stuff like that, the spin dash sending the Gordo back means that Sonic has such a comfortable time kind of invading DDD's range in this matchup. And on a map like Town and City with the close sides, Sonic is not going to have as much trouble getting rid of these DDD stocks. So I think, you know, like you said, it's the safe pick, and I think it's the smart pick. And so close to a lost stock there.
I mean, already, literally, Psych has not dealt a single blow to KB at the moment. Finally, of course, hears me, and it's like, all right, well, I'm going to start landing hits. But you're totally right. I mean, so far, I think this is a good call out for KB, because now they haven't gone for Gordo once. Right there, they go for it, and it lands. But before that, it's been called out every single time. And I think KB was kind of picking and choosing their battles now with these Gordos. So far, now proving me wrong again, landing 2 for 2. Like, all right, hey, I respect it.
You keep saying what's going wrong, and Psych's about to get a 3-stock, man. Like,
adjusting right here. I love the adjustments. Let's go. On the
and now
fly.
this is where things get tricky, because the Sonic combo game is offline. You know, now that the DD is at 163%, and if you don't land the right hit, you could find yourself just doing little bits of damage to DDD over and over and over again while he kills you, and we're seeing it happen right now. The percent lead was so good on the side of KB, but Psych has brought it all the way back to arguably DDD favored.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much even at this point.
All right.
Just enough kills. That's I'm just going to stop talking. Unsafe. I can't call it out. That loss of rage though, right there.
Oh my
Not
god!
gonna matter.
What a call!
That's
crazy, man. Who forward airs there?
Wow.
I'm hesitant to even say that was a bad option from KB. I think it was a great mix-up. It's just an even crazier call-out on the side of Psych to take that stock off. So that confirms that Mission to Tech will maintain this stock lead, but it's a matter of how much of a stock lead, because 86% isn't exactly healthy, but when you're only dying at 160, you're not too mad about it.
Definitely not. Still getting a few shots in there. Might be one more stock in Psych's destiny here. We'll see if they can land that shot.
Oh, he missed, man. That always hurts too, and that KB knows that. Oh my God, he had that wrong and still with him. Yeah. So lucky. And
that should
the
be
spin dash fair should do the trick on Town and City. So the correct counter pick coming through, and only a 1 stock lead. Only.
It felt like a lot more than that, though. It felt like a lot more than that. And there was that one moment, the Nair up air, like, that could have killed it like 70. That was scary. But
yeah, and his DI, it wasn't the worst it could have been, but it was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And so, he's honestly a little lucky that he didn't blow up there, because it wasn't flawlessly played, but either way, I think that's probably the result they were looking for. They would have loved probably to come out of that even, but 1 stock down is not so bad. And when you have a character like Sonic on the screen in this environment, I think there's a reason he's on the latter half of this roster. It's because you're confident in that cleanup potential. And against Greninja, like, Sonic does well. Against Bowser, Sonic does well. You don't have too much to worry about. I think my main concern here would be making sure that your Zelda player doesn't have to go up against too many Greninja stocks, because that matchup can be tricky.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I think that on the first point, it's always scary when you see like a not as good character later in the roster, because that player is really good at using them. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I was surprised not surprised, but I think what made me worried about keeping the Zelda on anchor is because I think what Michigan Tech is doing is keeping the Greninja on anchor. So
yeah.
I think we're gonna end up seeing the Bowser come out next, but I don't know. That Zelda Greninja matchup is gonna be scary. I think having that Zelda yeah, you're right. You want to have, if you're going into that, at least try to get the Greninja down to like 1 stock, 2 stocks, make it a little closer.
It can be tough, and I think Greninja just avoids a lot of things that Zelda usually has going for them, or for her against other characters. Stuff like fair and back air, especially if those big kill moves, are harder to hit against Greninja. Greninja jumps really high, so it's harder for Zelda with her airspeed to catch him with stuff like up air. Greninja's very fast, so weaving in and out of Phantom is not as hard as it is for other characters. There's a lot of things going for Greninja in that matchup, where Zelda would typically want to slow down the pace and find those kind of big opportunities for the big hits, and Greninja's pretty good at playing around them. The spot where it can make a big difference is that, like, down tilt at the ledge is unreal versus the Greninja. And like you said, they're saving it for last. The Bowser is coming out, and we're gonna have to see if that's the right pick, because this matchup, unlike the other one, is certainly not good.
It's not, and it's really gonna come down to how good this Bowser is at not getting hit at really any time here. Because I can't imagine this being I'm even surprised we're going to Battlefield, to be really honest. I feel like maybe the platforms will just give Bowser a little easier time landing, but I feel like against platforms, like, there's so much sharking that Sonic can do to make it so hard for Bowser to react to anything, especially in jump-ins, that I feel like having the platforms is almost a detriment.
I think the idea is that because Battlefield is so... Come on, guys.
That was like, it's a button check? What are we doing?
I think the point is, because Battlefield is so big, that Geyser is hoping that he's able to live a couple more hits than he would have otherwise. And, sometimes that is enough to make the difference, especially if it's a very, very close game, which it has been thus far.
It has been close thus far, but I think we're going to get another stock real quick pretty soon here. 104 apiece, almost literally down to the decimal even, until that back air comes out in time and that kills. I mean,
that was just pure greed on the side of KB. With blatantly shielding up there, going for something like a nair instead of something safe like a back air or an up air. it's one of those options you don't really think about in retrospect. You're just like, I'm just going to pressure shield. But just greedy enough that Geyser is able to capitalize, and this should not be as close as it is, or even as favored as it is for Michigan Tech, man. And 58, 72%. It's getting worse.
Oh, looking for a grab there. Yep, side B comes out. Not going to land. Up B out of the shield, and that's going to completely whiff, giving KB an opportunity to try and rack up some damage. Catches the jump. But Geyser, I mean, only taking 30% can more than afford these hits here. Just looking for one right opportunity. Looking for the side B again. Gets stuffed on the jump.
Oh, and that's a huge opportunity. The homing attack will get the lag off the back of the platform. And now the Flame Breath, okay, not getting any damage on there, letting it rip a little bit early. But the parry on the spin dash, KB's unable to find any sort of opening right now. And as I say it, an offstage opportunity actually missed. He doesn't pull the trigger on a fair.
Wow, and then the uppermost part of the hitbox catching, but those claws are not going to be enough. One more will certainly do it. No more invincibility. Going to lose it on the back end. Jumps in with that spin dash, but the down air again.
No way, that's what you
raw down air,
man. Come on.
The Wi-Fi down air.
Actually hit it with it. That stings, man. That stings. And if you're full sail, that kind of went nightmare levels of bad. That was not what you were looking for. You were really hoping that the Sonic was kind of the ringer in these matchups. You know, Zelda does pretty good against Bowser. Honestly, Bowser has some stuff against Zelda. You know, up B out of shield, pretty good against Zelda, as well as Bowser is pretty fast, considering, you know, despite being a heavy character. So there can be some problems there. And then we know Greninja is in the backline for Michigan Tech. So that's a lot on the shoulders of one Zelda player. 5 stocks, and, you know, not the matchup you would have chosen if you could have chosen it for yourself.
Definitely not. And, you know, looking back on this, we were talking about this before the broadcast, like between these two rosters on paper, you know, we were kind of feeling that Full Sail kind of had the edge. But when you're this deep into the season and you're still running these characters for Michigan Tech, you know there's a reason why they made it this far. They're that good. Yeah. And that makes that extra scary, because I'm like, how good is this Greninja, right? Like, that's, if your heavies are coming out first, like that Greninja is going to be playing anchor. It's going to be difficult. I think for Full Sail, they might honestly be thinking like, what's next? What's the next game? How do we change this up? Maybe do we bring the Sonic out like earlier? Try to like weed out some of these bad matchups earlier in the series, and then try to get back in later. Not entirely sure. Try to get that Greninja out earlier, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe, man. I think too. We've seen 5-stock comebacks happen. We have multiple.
We've seen
times.
Way more than that. We've seen some crazy.
Yeah, we've seen some wild stuff. So, you know, how good is the Greninja? How good is Rickster? And I think it's this guy's time to shine.
That is saying, I think, on point right there. That might actually be an understatement. Yeah, you got to shine right here for sure. 5 stocks. You got 6 stocks, actually. You got to get... All right, it should be 5. 5 stocks you got to get rid of here. As Zelda, a character that can clutch, but to this amount...
Yeah, how many times? You know what I mean?
How many times exactly? It's a lot to ask for.
Yeah, and there's a difference between being able to clutch hard enough to win a game and being able to clutch hard enough to take 5 stocks in a crew battle. It's just a different kind of beast. And even now we're seeing guys are able to put on a lot of percentage early and able to nullify some of these phantom, you know, kind of pressure points. Zelda at the ledge now, not her strongest position. And honestly, a lot of flame breath coming out from Geyser as well, finding a ton of value.
Yeah, doing a really good job of that, respecting that. Gets out of the dodge.
Oh, he could have killed him like 3 times.
Oh, all right. Side B. Don't think that's going to be enough to kill right in the middle of the stage, and it's not. But one forward air should be able to do it if they're deciding to commit. Doesn't go for it. Forward tilt. Not going to catch. Oh wow. Okay. I think they might have looked for the side B again there, and it got stuffed.
What?
But it comes out anyway.
All right.
I think they're just mashing side B at this point, like 5%. And why not? That's landing.
Godspeed, man. I mean, if you're Full Sail, this went from bad to worse. I hate to be like that, but all right, bad to worse to a little bit better. I think that F smash was the way back into this game, if there ever was one. And so, if this stock can come out clean from Rickster, almost a lifeline handed by that huge read, and the pressure right now is crazy.
He gets back on. Nice job using the get up attack, nullifying that Phantom coming in. Again, the up B has been clean out of shield. The forward air catching the jump. It goes again. That's what I was expecting earlier. And finally goes forward.
Wow,
and it's just enough. Does not get to the ledge. The forward air kills. And now Rickster at 1 stock. What a play there on that second stock from Geyser to really turn things around.
I mean, this game has just been a roller coaster of, oh, it's over. Oh, we're back. Oh, it's over.
We're back. It's over. We're back.
That was a really devastating way to lose that stock. But thankfully, Rickster probably will be able to confirm this one. The pressure at the ledge should be really strong here for getting Bowser out. But no jump is going to be that up smash. Does not connect. And now Geyser willing to take his time as he tries to get back into the middle of the stage. But Phantom will send him back off.
Oh, down air doesn't come out in time. And I'm sure Geyser wants any opportunity to side B at the ledge and on the platform. One more of those might kill.
It might just end it right here, man.
Nice. Flame breath. Looking for the side B. You can just tell they're like,
the fear, man. The fear. Wow!
Come on, you have to land that.
Oh my god. Man, he's actually just letting it rip.
And, oh, that's a side B, my guy. That was, I'm surprised they went for the up tilt. That was a full side B. Geyser goes down, so it is one. There it is. Now we're good. It is 1 character apiece. Rickster with a single Zelda stock, and Greninja from Mac coming out with 3 ready to go. Can it be done? Can this Zelda Rickster make it happen?
It can be done. Don't get me wrong. It's possible. You know, nothing's impossible. Don't let your dreams be dreams and all of that. Like you can do anything you set your mind to. You know, don't let me be that guy.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
But I mean, come on. Like, you know, I think a lot of the time, certain players are the anchor for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. The team has confidence in those players to clutch up in situations just like this, and I think the rest of Michigan Tech set, you know, their anchor up for just success. Mm-hmm. It's 1 stock on Zelda, right? And Zelda, you know, definitely a character that can take stocks. But it's almost in such gimmicky ways you don't expect it to happen 3 times in a row before you can get one, and it's just like, it's hard for me to see a world where Full Sail pulls this one back.
Yeah, if the positions were reversed, obviously aside from the fact that, you know, Greninja, Zelda, little Greninja favorite. Zelda's so slow that I think making the comeback is the biggest deal. Like Greninja can. For worse, like if they're not laying the hits, at least they can avoid not taking hits. You know, like it might overall take longer, but they'll get there. Zelda's just so slow, like it's almost inevitable Zelda's gonna get hit, and really has to work at like making sure they've done their damage first before that inevitable damage comes their way. And when you have 1 stock to work with, like Greninja just has to like shuriken at you and like kind of poke and prod you for a whole stock and not really commit until they absolutely need to. So you have that war of attrition that Greninja can play. For Zelda, who has like slow startup moves, like you mentioned, Greninja just can like weave around literally everything Zelda does. You can't be as defensive as Zelda wants to be in a lot of matchups against Greninja.
Yeah, and I mean, the other tough thing is a lot of the time how Zelda matchups end up going and how Zelda players end up winning is they take a lot of damage and then they kill you at 65%. And then they take a lot of damage and then they kill you at 65%. You do not have the luxury of taking a lot of damage. So your game plan kind of fundamentally has to change to not only do you have to not take a lot of damage, but you still have to find those early kills.
Well, we'll see if it can happen. Rickster representing Full Sail, a single stock to their name.
Look at him walk, man. You know it's over. Look
at
you know
the fundies. The walk. And then we have Mac the Greninja coming in for Michigan Tech. 3 stocks to go for Rickster to take out from this frog. Can it be done? We think it can physically be done, but will it happen? Are we living in that timeline? We're about to find out.
I also think this is Greninja's best stage. It's like, this is tough. This is really, really tough. And because one of the things Greninja can struggle with is killing at reasonable percents, especially because fair is like Fox back air and that it's a fake kill move a lot of the time. But on this stage, it absolutely is not. Fair will be killing you by the ledge around 120%. You know, fairly consistently. And so again, when you're down by this much, it's such a huge ask, and honestly swinging right off the bat, not even necessary, but showing that he's willing to make those big plays happen.
I mean, yeah, you got him. This is whenever you're gonna have to make big plays. This is the time to do it. But 36% for Mac on this Greninja is not looking clean for Rickster, who's having trouble just getting anything started. Whereas so many of these dash attacks and down tilts are landing for Mac, it's almost a non-issue. These hits are coming their way. They're not even worried about playing defensively. They're constantly holding forward against this Zelda, and finally punished for it. But can Rickster get a kill off of this?
Ooh, the back air comes through and looks pretty good. But as we said right before this game even started, wait, is that it? What?
And
I can't help but feel like that DI was a little shoddy, unfortunately. But I mean, it was such a tough spot to be in, and Mac showing us why he's the anchor, man. That was about as clean as it gets.
Yeah, no sweat at all. Mac was ready to go, and that's such a good feeling when you know your team has set you up for success, and you just kind of come in and play that sweeper role, and the floors are already pretty much clean. They're 99% of the way there. You just gotta, spick and span, and you're all good. So, nice job there by the Full Sail roster, but it was Michigan Tech coming out on top very decidedly. So now, coming into this next game, how does Full Sail adjust? Do they put in Kenshin earlier, who really, I think, had the best performance for the team? Do they kind of maybe put Kenshin to the anchor? Do they potentially anticipate Noku going to Wolf? Maybe they change something there. I think we're still going to see the Palu, but now I would imagine Full Sail would like to change up their order and maybe keep Kenshin for later in the game.
Yeah, it's hard to say what the changes are going to be, but it's kind of undoubtable at that point that some sort of change need to be made, because along the way, something went wrong. And before we throw to a quick break, we do have to shout out Extra Life for sponsoring the NACE Star League. Play games to change kids' health, change the future. You can click on the Twitch panel below to create your Extra Life team page right now. So thank you so much to Extra Life for being a sponsor of the NACE Star League, man. And honestly, it's a great cause. I've worked with Extra Life a couple of times. A lot of my friends have as well. And I think it's a great way to, be a part of the community and to give back.
Absolutely. And Extra Life has been part of the NACE family for quite some time. We absolutely love having them here. And we love having all of you tuning in this awesome playoffs matchup. So don't go anywhere. We have the next game between these two teams, the Huskies and Full Sail. Who's going to come out on top? We're going to find out on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
うん。
Welcome back, everybody. In case you just missed it, we just saw Michigan Tech take a 1-0 lead over Full Sail in this playoff crew battle, and honestly doing it in a pretty convincing fashion with 3 stocks to spare at the end of things. And so we were talking a little bit about this before the break, but what does Full Sail need to change to make this look a little bit more competitive?
Yeah, that's a tough ask. Looking at this, like, I think honestly, you might change up the order to potentially, I would put in Wild first. I feel like the Lucas might be the better pick to throw in first. Lucas doesn't really get hard counterpicked against any of these players, and I don't anticipate them putting Michigan Tech putting Psych in the DDD first to kind of like body the Lucas. So I think that might be a good way to like draw out the DDD earlier, right? You put in the Lucas first, Lucas potentially gets the first win, then the DDD comes in. I think the biggest change probably is Kenshin going in maybe a bit later. Just a good player that you might want to save for a more particular matchup or as your anchor. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. Michigan Tech looks really strong on characters that are very scary to play against. I mean, I don't even think we saw the full potential of Mac and their Greninja. So there's a lot underneath the surface there. And just against these really huge, I mean, even Noko, I wouldn't be surprised if Noko comes in first again. I don't know. It's going to be a lot for Full Sail. I would think that they put in Kenshin a bit later though, and maybe put Wild in first this time.
I think it'll be interesting for sure. And I think the main thing that I think is interesting is I think Full Sail already had the advantage a lot of the time in terms of matchups, in terms of what on paper we would expect characters to win. And so the adaptation has to come from somewhere else because they weren't necessarily counterpicked at the character select screen or at the stage select screen. It seemed more of like a player comfortability thing or, you know, just matchup preparedness as opposed to what the matchup actually is. And so I think that can almost be harder to adapt to because it's not so easy as, oh, here's the chart. Let me just go down and see what works better. It's a little bit deeper than that because they already did that and that didn't work.
No, that's a really good point. Like there are so many times, especially in the collegiate level, but like really that the kind of like just under the upper echelon of players where it's so hard to read like what a player is necessarily good at. You can't base it on what character they play. So many times we've seen matchups that look awful and they're like, yeah, but we put them in because specifically our guy loves this matchup, and there's no way you could know that unless like you've played them before or you just know them personally or you somehow did the research. And it's a big ask. So that's a huge point there. And and it's a harder read when you're against characters that aren't as good. Like, okay, you put in a Steve, like they're not worried about any matchup and they might be comfortable in all matchups. But when you have a DDD coming in, they could be really good at like the Joker matchup that you're not going to think of. And you're not going to think to like kind of avoid that situation. So the onus is kind of on you to anticipate something you can't anticipate. And that's a huge factor in qualifying how well you're going to do, especially this late into the season.
Yeah, and we talked about the pressure beforehand too. There's no redos. You have one set to figure it out. And interestingly enough, no change on the side of Michigan Tech. Noko still coming out first, but the change on the side of Full Sail, we're seeing Sonic in this round 1.
Yeah, KB Uncut coming out first, Sonic moving in. So again, another character who is very good against the blind pick, which I think is interesting because I didn't anticipate Michigan Tech changing Noku off of the lead player position, right? So like generally you would want to change to a Sonic because you're not sure who they're going to play, but you would have a good idea that they were going to play their Palu again because that's a character that's again good against blind picks. So that's interesting, but maybe they just want to get this Palu out quickly, get that Sonic in, and then hope that the DDD comes or the Bowser doesn't come in next, or maybe they want to draw the Bowser out earlier. Maybe that could be it. They know the Bowser's going to come in against the Sonic. Let's get that Bowser in second, get rid of him maybe.
At the very, very least, a change has been made. And I think another big thing about this is, you know, Sonic is able to play at the same pace as Lucina a lot of the time. Whereas we saw in the last match with Captain Falcon, you know, he often wanted to play faster and was having trouble getting in, especially through like the wall of back airs and stuff like that. Sonic doesn't necessarily have that same problem. He's able to slow it down and use spin dash to kind of find and pick those big moments to try and get those punishes. And we're seeing right now the slower pace of game, but KB has slowly but surely been racking on this percent and taking the lead.
Well, that's the Smash paradox. The faster characters create a slower game because it's so much harder to land hits, and you're seeing that right here. It's really all right. I was gonna say like they actually not make it back, but that down tilt might have actually two-framed there. It doesn't. Very close between these two players. The back throw should come out. There it is. Not nearly going to be enough, but We're going to be able to get a spring trap in here. Nope, they get to the ledge just in time. Forward smash comes out, and Noko really biding their time. Incredible patience here, looking to strike at the right time.
Sonic's forward smash is such a good option at the ledge. It's nearly the size of Marth's out smash, and it's completely safe if spaced. So in these situations when you're looking for a kill, absolutely a go-to option for Sonic. That being said, you know, Palutena has a unique solution to it. Dash attack and back air with the armor on that shield will go through any of the moves that Sonic has. And so KB has to be careful, especially as you reach these higher percents. You can't just be swinging willy-nilly, and we're seeing this patient neutral come back again.
I really do like KB looking for that moment to jump in where you could see Noku's just kind of like looping on the platform. Like, all right, if you're going to like drop your guard, I'm going to jump right in. I think Noku's almost trying to bait that. Like, oh, I'm looking like I'm dropping my guard. Actually, I want you to come in and attack me so I can back air you. And they're just barely not getting there in time, unable to respond. Maybe just beating them in a lot of these situations. And now they're not even, they're just looking at each other.
I actually hit him with the "you won't," and then he didn't. Like,
yeah.
He said the back throw off stage is a big opportunity, and the lag will allow for a back throw to come out. I think a little bit of a panicky option coming out from KB allows Noko to get that first stock, and now 150%. The stock is far from healthy, but both of these guys are willing to play at a snail's pace to ensure that they don't lose a stock, and that's pure greed. You're going to take about 30 for that. I would say if Noko can do the combo. Is what I would say.
That is something that I'm sure KB is really happy about. Gets right back in, has an opportunity to even things out, but Noko playing very slowly at the ledge, assuredly so. Shield gonna get pushed down to about mid here and gets in with the dash attack. Back air lands, and not gonna be enough to do more.
This is where things start getting scary. We're seeing the... Did you see that? Gavey walked up, wait for a spot dodge, and then didn't do anything about it. Like, he actually had the hardest read I think we've seen today, and just said, "Nah, you got it, man. All good."
It's either they're shook or they're very respectful.
That actually stopped me right in my tracks, man. Like,
wow, this is still going 198 now for Noko. Has not dropped a stock yet. Crazy. 207.
Yeah, that's really not what you expect from Palu, and a couple of opportunities from KB have been missed. Just straight up, that should have been the stock. The spot dodge read should have been the stock, and so now you have to wonder, is that in the back of KB's mind? You're down a game, you're down a stock. Palutena is at 207%, and you know the only person whose fault that is your own.
Yeah, and this was already a gamble because KB was one of the more reliable characters that had later in the roster, you know? So to lose the Sonic this early and potentially by 2 stocks here, if Noko's able to play as well as they did in the last stock, that's actually, I think, a worse start than they had last game or last series, right? Like, you had a really solid start from Kenshin. Now they're potentially losing one of their more consistent characters for later in the roster against this Palu. Now Kenshin's really going to have to pick up the slack when they come in.
That being said, you know, KB's been doing a good job. You know, he took a lot of damage, that 80% right off rip, but he was able to confirm the stock even at 207%. And now, you know, 53, it's a decent amount of damage on the second stock. So even if you lose it here, you know it's doable, but it's very much a tough spot to be in if you're full sale, because you were definitely hoping that this change got you back into the lead.
Mm-hmm. And this is, I mean, this could still go either way. They, like you said, KB has definitely crawled back and clawed their way in. I don't know. Does Sonic have claws? I'm not sure.
Don't take off his shoes, man. You don't want to know.
Oh, I was thinking about the gloves. They're going right to the feet. Okay, yeah. I see where you're going.
Don't call me out like what is that, man?
You called yourself that.
I did not do anything, man. That was all you. 150% now on the side of KB, kind of doing his best Noko cosplay coming in from the last stock, but a back air almost anywhere on the stage should do it at this percent. An up air definitely will do it as well, and even a neutral B or a forward air near the ledge, a back throw as well. But the forward smash from KB. The absolute balls of steel on this guy to let that rip, to have the jump read in the back pocket, and that is the advantage that we've been looking for, and it's answered back immediately by Noko.
What a spike right there. Things have evened up. This is exactly what Full Sail needs, and I feel like there's a lot of fire now underneath this Hedgehog. does get clipped a little bit. Noko gets another nair in, but misses the forward air outside. It is now just a difference of decimals of a percent now. Finally, some damage racked up here by Uncut, who's looking for a way to respond to Noko on the ledge, but doesn't get the better of that nair. And now still even things up. Uncut just gets away from that landing situation once again, trying to land some shots, but neither player able to consistently do that at this mid-percent neutral.
I would like to see some more dash attacks come out from Noko. We're seeing, you know, a lot of dash attacks come out of KB or spin dash charges or, you know, just kind of the slow play in neutral. I think if Noko was to overshoot a dash attack and try and hit either dash back or the spin dash charge, he would actually find a lot of value due to the armor on that dash attack. But, you know, opting to play it slow, opting to play it safe, it definitely can work. But I think an option like that would really kind of change the pace of this game. And I'm pretty sure this game would have gone to time in a regular situation.
Well, that's actually a funny thing that you mentioned, because I'm looking at the timer and it's not the regular timer it should be for a crew battle, and I was like, well, good thing this isn't going that long, because it might actually literally go to time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like they were rocking a 10-minute timer. This would have gone to time in a normal situation. But what is that?
Wow.
I thought that was the up air connecting.
Somehow.
How did it miss? How?
I would love to see if we had a replay there, because I think that might have been like by like inches, really, or smash units, whatever it is. That is a massive, massive win there for Full Sail, because they keep that Sonic. I was worried about that. Now they had Noko go down first. The Sonic comes in. This might be what Full Sail wants, because now Psych might come in as the DDD to clean up the Sonic, and now they might have some potential counterplay to go in against the DDD. That's the advantage of having that first win, is now you get the counter pick going into the rest of the battle until you lose that lead. So big win by Full Sail.
I mean that's huge. And honestly, if I'm Noko, I'm a little chuffed that up air didn't connect. I'm a little mad about that. But hey, man, if you're Full Sail, you'll take that every single day of the week, and that might prove to be a very effective back air, a very kind of TSN turning point back air for this series, especially with the way that game was going. I did not foresee Full Sail coming out on top of it. So honestly, huge props to KB for getting them in this situation. And I think we both expect Geyser to come out the Bowser just because of how well it went last time, how good it looked. Only one stock needs to be taken. You could probably go back to Battlefield or a place like Kalos to try and make sure that those stocks stay on for a long time and even it back up. But we're going to see something different this crew battle just due to the placement of Kenshin. And so I'm excited to see how that changes the pace.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy that Full Sail did that, because there are a lot of teams that wouldn't have made that change and would have been stubborn, like, oh, we can do it, or this is what we're comfortable with. And you really have to be able to make those changes, even if you're unsure. Making those changes is always a gamble. It's always a risk. You're not sure if you're going to have a character when you had them the last time. And for Full Sail, it paid off. Now, it looks like it's not going to pay off too much, because Geyser already is just crushing KB a little bit. Finally, Uncut gets a little bit of damage in. But yeah, that was a really big win. Absolutely well done. Noko goes down, and Kenshin's still waiting in the wings. This could be a huge difference maker for Full Sail. And I mean, hell, if Uncut even takes a stock here potentially, which could happen, that would be just even bigger for Full Sail. Potentially, this could be a different team. We could see a game 3. I might be talking too soon, but I'm seeing a different team here.
Yeah, there's definitely the potential. They've lined it up and they've made at least a single change that worked out in their favor. So it should be closer than the last time, all things remaining even. But I'm hesitant to call anything even when Bowser is on the screen and when some of those hits can come through so big like we've seen before. Even the last time these two faced off, it was a back air that ended up killing around 100% just because of a greedy neutral air. That being said, KB looking to be playing it a little bit slower this time, looking to be playing it a little bit safer, but you still have to find opportunities to let those kill moves rip, and a really greedy play from Geyser actually goes just completely unpunished.
Oh, the skid into forward air, streaming off stage. That was sick. I like that. Yeah, Geyser's game plan of going for side B literally all the time just doesn't work against Sonic as well as it does against other characters. So I'm not surprised that Uncut is actually living a lot.
No way! He does it again!
He kills it again!
On!
There's no way! There is no way!
That's the one thing, man. That's the one thing. That's the one thing. I refuse
to believe that.
Get me on the line with Full Sail right now. Stop!
Wow.
Stop! Bowser will down air. Bowser
That
will,
is
and you have to
crazy.
wait.
I think that is a record for most down air kills in a single series. I think we've already beaten it at 2. I think we've already beaten it.
Come on, man. You gotta. I mean, it's tough, right? It's a high pressure situation, and it is a mix up option, but I feel like if you know you're going into play against Bowser, as KB definitely would have, you have to be so ready for that option, especially because it's what it took. It's what took his last stock the last time these guys played. Right? Like there's a difference between, you know, being ignorantly aggressive and being like kind of cautious. So we saw a lot of cautious play out of KB for the duration of that stock, and unfortunately getting a little bit ahead of himself and losing the stock to that down air, it's just an avoidable mistake. It really, really is.
Yeah, you start to get antsy. You want to keep hitboxes active, but by doing so as Sonic, you're kind of putting your body on the line. There are some characters that can keep a lot of active hitboxes and not commit, and Sonic is unfortunately not one of them. He benefits a lot from it, but in that situation, it ends up being a double-edged sword. Down air comes out. I love how on the frame, it's like Bowser staring right at the camera as he gets the
just
kill.
like, what about it?
And I'm him moment right there for sure. And now we have the Sonic going down, which means Full Sail is waiting with a Zelda, a Falcon, Captain Falcon, and a Lucas. What do you think we're getting next?
I would be interested to see how Kenshin feels about this matchup. I know a lot of Falcon mains that really don't like this matchup. And part of it is because it really feels like a coin flip how it goes. Either you 3-stock Bowser or Bowser 3-stocks you, and it oftentimes doesn't go the way that you want. Even at a top level, we've seen Bowser's like hero come on top over Jokibu in Japan. We've seen Leon come out on top over Fatality a number of times. And so, you know, even in a matchup where, you know, Falcon typically does pretty well against heavies, Bowser is kind of the exception to that. And so I would love to see Kenshin saved for DDD, a matchup that Falcon does do very well in, instead of maybe kind of wasted on Bowser here.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think you want to have the Falcon not just for the DDD, but for the Greninja as well. So if you can have that, like you kind of need that. I think is the biggest.
I mean, that
thing,
matchup's not even great, but it's better than
but
Zelda.
it's better than Zelda. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a better option. So I think you're totally right. Yeah, I mean, Falcon against Bowser, it's pretty much whoever just kind of it's two big meaty guys slapping meat, you know, like, and it comes down to that, like who's going to be able to take more hits, and they both just evaporate each other off stage, combo each other really hard, and not fun, I don't think. And then of course this Falcon, you can't even gentleman, like, or you can't, you know, rapid, like
you can't rapid jab,
and rapid jab, so that's, you know, hate that. We'll see. Is it the Falcon coming out? No, it is the Lucas. I think that is the right move for.
Yeah, I think that's the right play as well. Lucas got, you know, a lot of edge guard tools against Bowser between the down air, the back air, and the down smash. The Zair is a very good option against Bowser because of his, like, you know, semi-limited range. Is going to allow Lucas to make some big plays, and so I definitely think that this is the right choice. The biggest thing here is making sure that you don't get fared off stage, because that'll just put you into such an unwinnable spot.
Absolutely. And up B comes out of shield as expected. Wild has to be careful here. A single stray hit like that just will even things up almost immediately. These PK fires, I mean, Geyser has just been ignoring them, and that's in this matchup a really good way for Lucas to just kind of keep the difference between them, that distance there. And Geyser has not at all been shook by it, keeping their shield up, not moving back at all, holding their ground, and reaping the benefits of it.
I think something that is particularly scary about heavy players is, you know, these guys are willing to take a couple hits, right? What it takes to be someone who just plays a heavy in tournament consistently, or in situations like this, is you have to know where your risk reward lies. If you're pretty sure that you're not going to die, a lot of the time you're willing to take that hit to try and make a big play happen. And so it's pretty common to see heavies go up in percent like this and still come ahead of the stock, because unfortunately, Smash is definitely a game of stocks, not percentages, and we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah. Oh, should still be able to get back from here, and does. That down smash not come out in time, but just can't get back otherwise. Like, not. Actually,
this is so bad now, man, and this is what I'm talking about. He's at 204%. Lucas, he's only at 12, but he keeps missing these sweet spots, and finally the stock is taken. But for how long? Players. For how long does this advantage last? How much extra damage are you able to take as Bowser is threatening you near the ledge?
Oh, has to be careful of that forward tilt. Comes right out as soon as that invincibility goes away. Your options are very limited at that point. Now it's back to even, and Geyser at this even at this percent. Oh,
Oh, great
wow,
down smash.
wow.
Holy, that sent far. That's it.
That's it. That's death. Yeah, I think Geyser accidentally held down and fast fall at the corner there and was not expecting it whatsoever.
That was a crazy angle for that down smash to set at, and Wild more than willing to capitalize with that PK freeze, able to secure the stock, and now going up a stock very favorably against Geyser, potentially able to come out of this with 2, which would be a great change of pace for Full Sail going into this next matchup.
Absolutely, and Full Sail. I mean, this is kind of where we were at last game. I think Full Sail though is holding on to their lead longer than they did in the previous one. Michigan Tech kind of got that lead early, and that's again off the back of that change in the lineup here for Full Sail that has paid off for them so far pretty well with that full stock lead.
So
they have,
greedy, but the punish.
but yeah, not worth it.
I would have liked to see more out of there from Geyser. Like, just going for the side B seems really safe in that situation, especially when I'm pretty sure he could have got something like a back air or even a down air to try and get a little more damage on the board. That being said, even percentages, it would be huge if Geyser was able to take this stock off, but Wild wants to secure this 2-stock lead.
Yeah, but I was gonna say Geyser needs one shot, whereas Wild still needed a good amount of wins in neutral to actually get the stock. Geyser was over 200% last one, and now Geyser with that extra credit still has a lot of room to work with in terms of staying alive here. Doesn't have to worry really about getting grabbed. Shouldn't kill. The flame breath comes out. But look how patient Wild is being. That patience is coming out of cost because Geyser's landing stray hits here and there, and it's keeping things harder for Wild to eventually try to crawl back in.
Yeah, that being said, this should be a very hard situation, but missing the 2-frame on the F tilt again, I think a down smash could have just been the play there. The tech is hit, but the grab is a little bit slow, and this just got very, very scary. Now at the ledge, getting hit with the flame threat means he will have to go back to the ledge. The neutral getup is not caught by the forward tilt, but we're back in neutral, and there's no punish on the side B. A bit of a whiff from Wild. Is he able to confirm here at the ledge? The forward tilt misses, and no punish on the whip grab either. The forward tilt sends him deep off stage, but what is the option at the ledge? Oh,
Side
no.
B's! That should be it.
No.
Yes. Wow. The reach, the extendo on that aerial side B, like almost at full range there. That was nice. And you were just talking about it. You let a heavy stay in the game for too long and you will pay for it. But sometimes you don't have a choice. That Bowser's not going down. And how many stocks? I think every stock between those two players was literally like, I'm missing this punish. I'm missing this punish at the end. I whiff this, I whiff that. You could tell they're like, oh, we want to get this kill so bad. And you could feel the nerves playing for both of these players. It was, I mean, y'all at home couldn't see us, but I couldn't see you, Nurse, but I know production could see me freaking out over here. I'm sure.
Yeah, I was down.
Yeah.
You clench your heart in those moments because you've been there before, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this moment could be so frustrating, or it could be so scary to play against a player like this or a character like this. But, pardon the pun, but that really takes the wind out of your sails if you're Full Sail, who was looking down the barrel of a 2-stock lead coming into this game too, is now actually at a 1-stock deficit. That counter pick advantage has been taken away on almost a whim, and it started off the back of just what was a really greedy up smash from the side of Wild trying to end the game.
Yeah, I honestly, right now, that might be the MVP performance so far, I think, for the series.
Think so. Yeah.
Really, yeah, because that Husky's just getting right back into it. They still have and Bowser now has a full stock to work with here. So you have the Zelda and Falcon. So now it comes down to, do you keep that Falcon or you come in and try to clean it up? And this is going to be a big risk. We were talking about this. Falcon can still get bodied. Yeah. Is this worth the investment here? Because Geyser could take a stock or two before they go down. And this was a character we thought was going to be the anchor.
I mean, it really, really depends. This either goes really well or really poorly. And I think if you're on the side of Full Sail, you just need to pray that it goes well. The Nair 1 should put you in a great position, but a little bit of a greedy down air off stage. It goes unpunished for now, and the damage is racking up onto Geyser. But we just saw that last game. It's not damage that matters. It's stocks that matter, and Geyser has been taking them in spades today.
Oh, that side B. Barely catching in time on that jump in from Geyser, but then Geyser getting the best from on the platform. The up B. Nice spacing there. Geyser's been so accurate with these just like step back forward tilts a lot of the time that just playing the spacing game so well. And look at the patience, calls out the side B, just 2 empty jumps,
Oh my God.
waiting for Kenshin to make a move and punishes.
What are these options coming out from Kenshin, man? He started off so strong with the Nair ones, the up airs, the strings coming through, but now we've seen a couple times the whiffed side Bs coming out, and they cost Full Sail dearly. Just the ambitious options. You want to respect the aggression, but it can't be at the cost of sense.
Oh, look at the patience. Geyser with the little walk. Knows that they have enough shield to avoid getting poked.
This is so bad.
Yeah, what did I say? Guys are taking 2 stocks? I'm pretty sure I said that.
You did. You said it's definitely possible, and we definitely said before this started, this either goes really well or really poorly, and right now it is going very, very poorly. What is that DI?
That DI. Oh, I think they were looking to jump away and got caught and still have the input holding away. And then the raw, yeah, that was some crazy.
Okay. Oh, thank God. If you're Kenshin, you needed that. You 100% needed that. If you had lost that second stock, this crew battle becomes nigh impossible to win, especially knowing who's kind of left in the lineup. So huge stock and a huge catch on that neutral get up from Kenshin.
Realistically, I think had Geyser gotten that next stock, I think that would have been it. I think that would have been the series. I really do. Yeah, but hats off to Geyser. An MVP performance through and through. Might have been the literal MVP of this second game here, the second series of the set, to keep things in Michigan Tech's in their side of the locker room here. But Full Sail. They have Kenshin on that Falcon and then just a Zelda, but they're up against now a DDD Greninja. I mean, I feel like Falcon DDD, that's doable. That could swing things back. That could swing things back for sure.
Yeah, the really that's a matchup I actually play a lot locally as well. The nice thing about that matchup in particular for Falcon is because DDD is a character with a bunch of double jumps, his double jumps don't actually take him that much higher. Right? He doesn't get that much distance off of them, and so confirming into stuff like knee to catch double jumps is a lot easier on a character like DDD than it would be, say, on a character like Greninja. Just because DDD is in that space for longer and he's so big. And so it kind of cuts down your mix-ups to just a couple of options where you're actually able to find those big hits in a way that you aren't necessarily against Bowser.
Absolutely. Another thing too is a lot of Falcon's moves that he's going to use to deal with Gordo are the same moves he's going to use to start combos or kill with. So he can kind of cover multiple bases in neutral without having to change his game plan up too much. Like can throw out like knee, for example, and get like weak knee to stop the Gordo, or land strong knee and get the kill. So there's a lot of situations where Falcon doesn't have to make a split like second decision against DDD. A lot of their options are going to work flat out, and that could be, a deciding factor against this Falcon against the DDD.
Yeah, the part that you have to be careful about is you do have to space stuff like up air and nair correctly if you want those moves to send the Gordo back. If the Gordo hits too far up his leg on the nair, you actually will take the hit anyway.
That's a good point.
So you have to be careful about kind of managing where Gordo is on the screen and when you can send it back. And then the other thing you have to be careful about is, the main tool for sending it back a lot of the time is dash attack, because you can send it back, hit DDD, and then also hit him with the dash attack and then follow up. And you just go to the moon off of that. The problem is if you dash attack too close, you'll actually get hit by the hammer and then still get hit by the Gordo, which won't have been sent back. So you have to be careful about timing those dash attacks, because if you do it wrong, you're taking about 30 every single time.
Yeah, it's pretty much a situation of what to do, but it all comes down to when and how you do it. And that kind of decision making is really going to be the make or break difference here for Kenshin. If they want to come back and take this lead away from Michigan Tech, Psych is going to come in here on the DDD with a slight stock lead for both himself and for the team. 6-5. Michigan Tech is up in the series 1-0. If they take this, they'll be moving on to the round of 8. If they don't, they'll be going to a game 3. Can Full Sail make it happen?
Yeah, and I think something we haven't talked about yet is the comfortability here. Michigan Tech knows that they have a game, kind of to mess with. They know that they have a game to make mistakes, and so you almost think they might be playing a little bit looser than Full Sail is right now, who does not have that buffer.
What you just described is happening right now. You can see Kenshin is, using these aerials too close and is not stopping.
Oh my god!
I'm just gonna stop my sentence because it doesn't even matter after what just happened.
I mean, just a colossal whiff from both players, and thankfully a gift on the side of Full Sail. This, I mean, it's still looking bad. It's still looking very, very challenging, but you will take a free stock any day of the week. And a commitment off stage means a ledge opportunity for Kenshin, but it's going to go missed.
Honestly, I don't think Psych really cared. You could tell they were just holding down afterward. They were like, I'm still up a stock. Like, I can, quote unquote, trade stocks all day if we really need to. So that's, again, another big advantage of being ahead in the crew battles. Like, if you want to play at the same level, as long as you have enough stocks, you can play that trade game until you eventually come out on top. The forward tilt catches the up B, which won't go immediately to the ledge. It was way too close. The up smash comes in. It's not going to fully connect, but it gets most of the hits there.
Oh my
and
god.
then doesn't connect at all that time. So okay, that you deserve that after going for it.
Come on, man.
Times,
Come on.
You're asking for it right there. You're asking for it. That was a little nuts. First time I was like, okay. Second time, third time, you're all right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a fool me once, okay. 3 times.
So fool me again. You can't fool me again.
I don't know about 3 times in a row, but Kenshin obviously sensing the pressure in this situation, obviously sensing that a stock needed to be taken to even this back up, and trying their best to make that happen. Unfortunately, that means a 5 stock to 3 lead is going to come out again for the side of Michigan Tech, and this is what we saw last game, man. It's what we saw before, and they were able to close it out in the same, not the exact same matchups. It was Bowser into Zelda Greninja, but now it's going to be DDD into Zelda Greninja. It's tough. It's very, very tough. It's very, very tough.
Talk about characters that have a hard time clutching that much. We're seeing it kind of again. And this is, I think this is a misstep from Full Sail, kind of putting Richter in this position twice, I think, to be honest. I think the changes they made were good, but I think they really should have kept Uncut as their anchor. Having that Zelda again, I mean, Richter's a good Zelda, don't get me wrong, but it's so much to ask from Zelda of all characters against both the DDD and the Greninja. DDD is going to beat you on being tankier, and Greninja is going to beat you on dealing damage. So you're not winning on either one, really.
And I mean, like, Zelda does pretty good against DDD just because Phantom is such a hard thing for DDD to deal with in neutral, because his double jump doesn't really get him out of dodge, and because Phantom will send Gordo back, she kind of controls the pace of the match. That being said, you have to kill DDD. And we've seen
you have to kill
throughout this crew battle, that has been a problem. Killing the heavies has been a problem. And so even losing 1 stock here means you're still facing down the barrel of a Greninja who kind of handed the stock to you last time you played.
A lot of those options that like Zelda against other characters can kind of throw out and like get a kill, aside from forward air and like back air, aren't as good against DDD. I feel like DDD does fine dealing with Phantom at long range. Like isn't gonna get caught by like up B shenanigans because they're usually playing again at long range if they can. So it's like you kind of have like even side B, right? Like side B is not gonna kill as early as it might on other characters, and DDD's likely, I mean, could get caught with it, like you were talking about, like the double jumps are diminishing for DDD. When you're on your 3rd or 4th jump, you're not going anywhere. So the side Bs could land a little easier, but I don't know. Confirming that kill against other characters is a lot easier for Zelda. Against DDD, that heft, and then also just having to deal with Gordos is a big task to ask for.
Yeah, and I think like the biggest thing too is we talk about Zelda wanting to just trade up on stocks. She has to do it more times against DDD. Whereas a character like Roy or Fox, when that forward air hits at 55 or 65% near the ledge, that's the stock. Against DDD, he's living that, and he might be living another one. And so it means you have to find those opportunities still, and you have to find them more. And when you're getting hit with Gordos off stage like that, you're DIing like that. I mean, it's gone. It's gone from bad to worse. It's gone from bad to worse. And I'm having flashbacks to what we saw the last game that these guys played, where Richter maybe pulls it off, maybe gets that stock, but he only has 1 left in the tank. And against a player like Mac, who we saw was able to just clean it up, it is not enough.
And you could tell this is almost becoming a mentality thing. Like Richter is almost like so desperate to land hits that Psych is just punishing, like just whiff punishing the entire time. And you could tell like the frustration starting to set in. Like Richter got hit by like 4 or 5 Gordos in a row, and I know if that happened to me, I'd be getting pissed. So like it's hard to battle against that. The side B comes in,
Oh, it's nice.
Just enough. Yeah, that was like right on. Like you couldn't have possibly been more accurate with that one. And up in the top right corner too. So Psych does get down. Rickster needs to get this stock without dropping another one. That is a absolute like necessity at this point for Full Sail to have a chance at winning this, I think.
Yeah, if you want a chance at making this happen, you need to take this stock off without losing this next one. It really is as simple as that. And we've seen a lot of good stuff start to come out from Rickster. Those fairs and back airs out of shield are a really good tool against DDD because you can still sweet spot rising against such a big character. That being said, missing up Bs like that, you're not going to have too many opportunities because you are nearing that kill percent, especially near the ledge here.
Forward tilt comes out 139. Rickster has a chance to get back in, but you got to at least get the DDD off stage. And in these landing situations, these dash attacks and Gordos have made it impossible for Rickster to get back on. The forward tilt joins that party there. And the up tilt, that's it, yeah. So now a 4-1 lead here for Michigan Tech. Can Rickster do it? Can Rickster take 4 stocks?
I mean, we've been here before, almost in this exact situation, and Michigan Tech came out on top. And I think Rickster has to be thinking to themselves, come on, man. Like, not again, man. Put me in a better situation. Give me a different matchup. Let me try something. And
yeah,
I think the question isn't, can Rickster take 4 stocks? The question is, can he take this one?
Ooh, I do like this momentum, though.
Okay.
And it's enough. Okay, nice. Well done by Rickster. I love the layering of their approach there. Really working in, like, not just throwing out the Phantom Knight, but trying to approach with it, which I feel like was the biggest shift. I think a lot of the time they were just like, I'm going to throw out the Phantom Knight and hope it lands a hit. This time I'm really trying to work in and like you could see like almost like the coast to coast carry from one side to another from the Zelda, then finishing it off with the side B. Really well done. The Din's Fire was just enough and it was perfectly accurate, just like the one in the second stock too. Well done by Rickster, which means Rickster has to come in and face off against Mac once again. This matchup that they just can't get away from, it seems.
I mean, and an impressive performance. We saw Rickster actually catching on to the Gordos that were being thrown. Oftentimes DDD mains will double jump and throw a Gordo at that kind of low angle so that they can actually cover themselves as they're recovering. That being said, if you have a projectile like Jin's Fire that can get up there, you could actually punish the end leg on that Gordo. And so that's what we saw come out twice. And I think it's a great adaptation from Rickster in those key moments. And it would have got him probably a game in any other situation. That being said, we're not going for games. We're going for the win on the crew battle. And because of the position that he was in, it's not enough. It's not enough to trade stocks like that. And so now you need a near flawless performance against Mac, who showed a lot of comfortability in this matchup the last time we saw them. And in particular, something we were talking about during the break was how hard it is for Zelda to challenge Greninja's double jump height.
Yeah, it really is. Greninja just has that, like, obviously slipperiness to them, but especially against Zelda. Like, Zelda really can't give chase.
And he gave him town again.
Oh yeah, that's actually, oh wow. That's probably the scariest thing here too. This is, I mean, at this point, Mac is like Rock Lee before even dropping the weights. Like, it's still cooking and has another level to go. So can Rickster kind of bring that level out? That's what I really want to see here.
Yeah, like we said, we need to see a very, very solid game plan. We need to see this kind of range kind of just maintained throughout the game. And this double jump, the mix-ups with the, you know, the shuriken to stall in the air and the double jump to get up high, we can't see Rickster falling for stuff like that, because every time he takes 30%, it just gets farther and farther out the realm of possibility, and the Nair F smash is going to do a lot of damage at the ledge.
All right, backing up here. There comes that Knight. Gonna create some space, but I mean, Mac has no problem. As long as these platforms are here, has no problem giving up a majority of the stage, because again, Zelda can't chase. There's really no reason to put themselves in a situation where they have to force themselves into a close quarter situation. And even now, like, here come the water shurikens, like really looking for a way in. Goes with that down or that Nair there, and it just doesn't land, and that puts Rickster in an opportunity to deal some damage in the corner. Almost lands a fat forward smash. It's shielded just in time, lands with the neutral B, and again regains stage control.
I like the willingness to go for that forward smash. That is how you get yourself back in the game. You need to be willing to make plays like that. Unfortunately, 92%, this is getting pretty scary, and a stock isn't even taken off of the side of Mac yet. But the back air out of disadvantage will do it. 101% isn't exactly in kill percent unless he gets hit with a down tilt or a fair, maybe a little bit off stage. So, and maybe another hit on the board. But the tough part about this matchup, and the tough part about playing Greninja in general, is a lot of the time he's going to want to poke with Nair or he's going to want to poke with Fair. Both moves are completely safe, unpunishable by Zelda, and the jump call out on the dash attack will be it. Just too many mix-ups layered on that hit, and the Rickster too tall a task after a valiant effort, but Mac able to secure the win 2-0 for the side of Michigan Tech, who will be going on to the round of 8.
They will indeed, and they get the slight upset seed-wise. Michigan Tech was actually the 9th seed coming into this, just a single seed below. But it is an upset. It is on paper, but I think just, at least in performance, really, aside from a few moments, Michigan Tech was kind of in control. Full Sail, though, had a bunch of moments where they were able to take the series back. They were able to put some pressure on, but the adjustments from the Huskies were a bit just too much to handle. They had an answer for everything, and they just had some players who were just comfortable regardless. I still don't think we saw the full extent of the Greninja's power there at the end. I think there was still more to go, and I would love to see that later in the playoffs. But hats off, first of all, to Full Sail for making it this far. They were one of the top 16 teams the entire season. That is a lot. That's something you put up on the fridge, right? Right next to the report card or something like that.
Yeah, tell your mom, man. Tell your mom. You did good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like you said, I can't give enough credit to the teams that actually made it here, because it was hard fought, man. There was a whole season and not every single team made it. So hats off to Full Sail for making it this far. But that is the end of their season as Michigan Tech moves on. And so that ends the crew battle for today in a 2-0 fashion. But don't go anywhere, because after a short break, we're going to have an interview with the winners. We'll see you then. We're back sooner than you perhaps expected. Unfortunately, I was misinformed. We do not have an interview coming out from the winning side of things. So if you want to see these guys play again, you'll just have to tune in this weekend for when we, cap off the round of 8 and the round of 4. That being said, there's more action coming today. There's more to enjoy on this stream. On the back end of another break, we're going to have Rainbow Six for you guys. And so if you guys are into that, there's nowhere better to be than right here. But for now, we're our time is done. We've sung our song, and just one last time. So I've been Nurse, and I've been joined by Dak. Plug yourself, man. Plug yourself. Let me hear it.
Oh yeah, real quick. Well, I mean, I'm happy to be back. It's been a little bit since I think December, so I've done some collegiate cruises. A good time to cast. I can't wait. I believe we'll be casting again in a couple weeks.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that. I love me some collegiate cruise. I certainly love the playoffs and these teams. Shout out to them for putting on a great performance. Shout out to Full Sail for making it this far. Michigan Tech, good luck to them in the next round. And yeah, I'm happy to be here at DakCity_. Nurse, I'll throw it back to you to sign things off.
All right, like I said, guys, go give Dak a follow. Yeah, he's one of the hardest working guys out there. We saw you. Let's make big moves. You're making big moves, man. You're back here with little old me, so I appreciate it. But that being said, we are done with Smash for the day, but don't go anywhere, because round of 16 for Rainbow Six Siege is coming right up. See you guys then.
Welcome back, everybody, to the NACE Star League playoffs. It's Rainbow Six Siege time for the first time this semester and the first time since December on LAN. I'm Time Blight. Joined alongside me is Infernosis for our round of 12 matchup. It's the 8th seed, Rochester Institute of Technology, taking on the 9th seed, University of Cincinnati, for a spot against Davenport in just 2 days' time. Scott, opening things up, it's our closest match on paper that could have happened with our 12 teams. What are your original takes coming into it?
Well, getting a sneak peek at our map selection we had previously, it's somewhat expected to see from teams that are sitting middle of the pack, but the rosters themselves are really what separate these two teams. One team over the other has players that I happen to already know and have casted before. The other one is kind of a sneak into limelight. Like you said, middle of the bracket, 8th and 9th seed. It's gonna be a true testament to see how truly they can survive, especially if going into their matchup, like you said, 2 days from now, against a team that has been tested, having already made their way past that point.
Well, let's first take a look at our rosters. We'll start things off with the Rochester Institute of Technology. Coming in as the 8th seed, 4-2 through 6 games of play. They have Pyro, Zeph, Cassiopeia, Gamer, yes, Gamer, and Dillian. And I think RIT have been a little bit of a smaller team because of their lack of play in exterior leagues outside of NACE. You haven't really seen them all that much in CR6. You really haven't seen them in series similar to that whatsoever. It's really just been NACE that we've seen them, and NACE hasn't done as much R6 streaming, so that's where you lack the visual scene.
The precedent not there is what we're getting at here, Dan. And so it may be hard for those folks outside of other leagues and biomes in general for R6 to understand. But for the University in Cincinnati side, there are a couple players we've seen before, like Duck Duck, a very solid player for their squad. But here is our map selection already being brought up here on the board. It was Border and Skyscraper taken off first. Border banned by UC, RIT banning Skyscraper after the fact. Bank and Theme Park being the bans following suit, and that left us with Chalet and Villa, two very solid maps, somewhat similar to each other in terms of large scope of field for total play and more opening corridors and halls. But with Cafe and Club following suit, that leaves only Oregon, the map that truly tests most teams. It's where good teams go to die. However unfortunate that may be, if you're a team that isn't as clinically talented as another, Oregon is a perfect place to go because everyone knows Oregon down to its baseline level. It is the amateur map of choice.
It's the great equalizer where teams from lower echelons can really match up against teams that may very well be more practiced, which is entirely understandable and is a similar situation in every first-person shooter. You and I talked about this actually in DMs. You said it, so I'm going to steal your line. It's the mirage of Counter-Strike, the ascent of Valorant, whatever you want to call it. But it will really bring two teams that could be very far apart, which these two teams already are not, the 8 and 9 seeds, even closer together, which will really give us a banger of a third map. Of course, assuming we need it. We still have to go through Chalet and Villa to determine if a third map is even required.
Yeah, don't jump the gun just yet, Dan, right? We still actually have to drudge through the first and second map. Hopefully, drudge is not an aptly fitting term for how this series goes down. I hope it's an absolutely enjoyable experience for those of you watching, and especially here in the booth for you and I casting. But let's talk first about Chalet. Long time before, when Chalet first got brought into the map pool here, Dan, it was extremely attacker favored. That has keyed back in ever so slightly, and in fact, with RIT opting to defend first, maybe they like the option of seeing what they could do defensively to then key into maybe how they see RIT likes to play when it comes down to their chance on the attack, countering against Cincinnati. Time will tell, but I'm interested to see what you think our operator selection is going to look like, and more specifically, our veto phase for Chalet is going to look like.
Still thinking that it really depends on the teams. At a higher level, when you're looking at tier 3, tier 2, and the amateur scene, you have a fairly consistent operator ban phase, where Nook is basically always removed. Nobody likes to deal with a lack of information, the variables you know versus the variables you don't. Collegiate players don't like algebra. Let's just flat out say that to start things off. But you also have to talk about what else is banned around that. Sometimes you'll see a Cade ban, but not always. It really depends on whether the team you're playing up against or yourselves actually enjoy playing the bottom floor, it's fairly easy to still take care of those Electro Claws. That's, of course, if a Thatcher ban comes through as well. A lot of options, a lot of variables to work with, and I'm a college student. I don't like algebra either, so I'm, of course, going to wait till they let us know what's happening.
Well, we're going to take a quick break before we get into the matchup and see truly what is going to go down on our first map of Chalet. But make sure you guys stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We're about to get to the barn burner that is this matchup.
Apologies for the technical issues. Welcome back to the NACE Star League playoffs. Rainbow Six Siege's round of 12 and the closest possible matchup it could be is about to kick underway on Chalet as we head into things. It's the Rochester Institute of Technology starting off on the defensive side of the University of Cincinnati's map pick of Chalet, and wouldn't you believe it, Nook is banned. Surprise, surprise, Scott.
Who would have seen that one coming? Definitely not you. It's definitely not you going on a tangent just moments prior before our break. Following suit behind it, interestingly enough, is going to be the Jackal, so Flores will be allowed to wreak havoc here on Chalet. The bans for the defense, you talked about the Kaid, I'll talk about the Valkyrie as well as the Azami. Azami and Valkyrie being two of the most banned defender operators in the game, but Kaid will be taken off first on the chopping block in the collegiate scene. That does make a ton of sense. Like you mentioned, for that basement objective, makes it just a little bit harder for that attacking side to, defending side to lock down that garage wall, but they'll also be denied the information of that Solus. So that means Valkyrie and Azami being allowed on the board. It will be very dangerous for the attacking team to stay still when they pressure in towards this site. And while yes, when they pressure to the top floor, they can mostly be concerned about windows. The Valkyrie cams will not mean much to them, but once they step inside to deal with the first and basement objective, that's where you're going to see Rochester wreak havoc.
One thing I'm a little surprised about is the fact that Cincinnati banned out the Kaid. Not the fact that Kaid was banned, sure, that makes sense, but the fact that Kaid was banned and Thatcher was not. Usually when Thatcher's left on the board, Kaid is as well, because there's a direct counter available, you have a single pick that can counter an entire operator's kit, and you then can use that kit on other defensive operators. For instance, in this round, you would have been able to use it on the Mutes, the ADSs, and those Malusis, yet not the case. They probably won't bring a Thatcher because they don't have to worry about that Kaid, nor maybe would Kaid even be played considering it is the top floor.
Good news for Cincinnati with attacker re-pick on the board and available to them. They can opt to change things up round by round. Rochester opting not to bring out a Valkyrie means Cincinnati don't necessarily need to be concerned with bringing out the IQ to find all of those black eye cameras and to cleanse them quickly. Instead, they can go for a more direct approach, utilizing the windows, like I mentioned before, as one of their direct approaches to entry. They will bring out the Gridlock and the Handseer Presto Dragon. The player is also going to mention alongside Duck Duck and of course Dark Matter for the Cincinnati side. There's top 3 players that in my mind really facilitate the Cincinnati attack and defense. But the Gridlock means you throw out those Track Stingers and be able to really deny Rochester's attempt at a roam. And they do have a very good operator selection to have that extension be stepped away from sight. But Def may be caught off guard here, Def. Little overextended all the way back towards stock. Has to renegotiate themselves back through Fireplace Main and up through that staircase to join alongside Dillian.
So I thought Zeph was going to get caught out. I saw them shooting at the drone as the window was open on their left. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which team you're rooting for at this point, they are still alive and are now forced all the way down to the bottom floor. You can see Duck Duck is chasing after them a small amount. That aggression here for the attacking sides working out fairly well for them, displacing this RIT defense and forcing them out into uncomfortable situations.
Initial repel being still used on the outside balcony, and of course Highway here being held for Penguin. A dangerous spot when you're trying to peruse in through library. You'll have to see how quickly Rochester will give up the initial hold. Sitting one player inside Cubby, Gamer is holding on for dear life. No one's holding Ego Window, and Cincinnati don't necessarily need a player there to get the job done. That's 2 kills already netted for the attack. Zeph and Dillian off the board. Yorizami no longer having the barricades needed to cut down attacking sightlines. And a refrag already back in return. Over half this round is done and dusted, and Cincinnati hold a 2-man advantage.
Confidence is billowing as well. You can see how confidently they are taking those fights, and most importantly, how much they know exactly what they want to do. Setting up those trades, as we saw, especially through that hatch. Yeah, congratulations, you've gotten a kill into Presto Dragon, but the immediate refrag is there. It's still a 2-man advantage here for Cincinnati, who doesn't seem like they're going away anytime soon. Reach the final minute of the round, and this aggression is not stopping either. They're going to take care of the piano shield and force even more of this RIT defense back, whatever's left.
Cincinnati don't want to run into the final 20 seconds of this round and still be needing to clear utility. Another Rotero Drone being sent out by Kodiak, this one being just barely cleared away by Pyro in the master bedroom, almost used entirely for the information itself, as Penguin repelling in. There's plenty of sight lines and is trying to force Rochester into their line of sight, but it just barely falls short. Dark Matter takes matters into their own hand, not only getting a kill, but now planting the diffuser. And while you see the chance for Pyro to swing back in through Study, it falls short all the way in through Piano Window. A long shot to be held. Cincinnati start off strong.
The opening round, to their own map selection no less, exactly what you're looking for. If you are a Bearcat fan, on the other side, the Tigers need to make sure they can hold those opening picks, or at a bare minimum, take more time off the clock before they give up as much manpower and or real estate as we saw them do. If you bring it down to a 2v3 or a 2v2 with that same minute left, then it's a viable round for yourselves. But if you can't, and it's a 4v2 once more with just 60 seconds on the clock, Cincinnati is going to walk all over you like we just saw. Play the trade game as they please, and most importantly, play the patience game. Have you walk straight into their line of sight, as we saw in the previous round with Pyro. Even though they found a single kill, they could not do anything further because they were just being held from multiple angles at the exact same time, walking straight into a crossfire and being taken care of. That's exactly how the Bearcats took round 1 and are setting the tone here on Chalet.
I'd keep in mind for Cincinnati, most teams that are attacking this objective like to at least put some pressure down in through those Solarium windows. Rochester were priming themselves for that potential push, but it never boiled up. It never got brought to fruition by Cincinnati. Instead, one player with 60 seconds left in the round, giving them a sightline in through the master bedroom big window. The rest of the team took the direct approach through Ivy Hall and through Piano Wall. There was not a chance for Rochester to flex themselves backwards and hold off the cutoff of it that was available for Cincinnati, arguably. Cincinnati just won their ones coming in from Library, coming in from Mezzanine. The control they gained in through Billiards and through Bar. Duck. Huge play for Duck, swinging in. The play from Zeph, who tried to rotate down to the basement, falling short. Rochester just stretched themselves a little bit too thin, and inevitably, when that happens, it snaps, and Cincinnati are the team that's quick to pounce.
Cincinnati wasting no time this time around either. Similar setup for both teams at this point in time. Gamer right back in that closet. Dillian waiting towards the top of Mez. By no means are things changing, especially now as the round has started off and Penguin finds an opening kill. This time Gamer is the first one to fall, and the defensive side has lost a second consecutive opening pick to open up this map of Chalet, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. Dark Matter finds a follow-up upside down rappel on the main double window with the AK-12, and it's a 5v3 in just 50 seconds.
Cassiopeia going for a pretty cheeky angle swing for Rochester. Knowing they're at a man disadvantage, they may have to get a bit more aggressive, more than they would necessarily like to in the early stages of this round. Only 70 seconds have ticked away down. Cincinnati have made quick work of the Rochester defensive positions. Ego window breached open already. Cincinnati know they can swing out towards that highway and take down through piano window. They'll use their Rotero drone, much like last round, to clear away that piano shield, and in the same fell swoop, knock down yet another player. A 2 versus 5, a wild run out by Pyro, and what would you expect? Cincinnati's Duck finds the rotate and the swing. That pretty much nails the fact that this may just be all she wrote. Zeph will be able to DBNO Duck. I think they may have DBNO'd themselves with a nade. But they're trapped in Master Bathroom. Nowhere to go, Dan.
It's a frost mat that caught Duck, so Zeph does technically get the DBNO, but just from an inanimate object. Lack of awareness there and maybe a lack of droning, but it's a 5v1. Honestly, who cares if you're on this Cincinnati side, as Penguin will find another kill from the master double window, and the Cincinnati Bearcats make it 2 consecutive. You were talking about Solarium being a possible avenue of attack. Cincinnati don't even need a second avenue. They're worried about maybe 1 or 2 entryways, and they've won the round.
Despite the fact these two teams are seated very close to each other, Dan, we're seeing a huge, I would say, malalignment of where they truly lie in terms of clinical level for the first 2 rounds. Cincinnati look better and are playing better. Finally, Rochester will opt to switch to a new objective. The second floor has not been kind to them, falling victim into the last minute and a half in that last round, 60 seconds in the round prior. They're statistically getting worse round by round for when Cincinnati finally opt to remove the last tidbits of utility in their way and pressure in direct to side to go for their diffuser plant. Rochester with the basement on the board and the Kaid being banned by Cincinnati for their defensive pick. It may be difficult for them to completely lock down safely that garage wall. I believe they'll opt to go for more of a passive approach to that denial, where Cincinnati will go for a very direct. Low 0 camps held by Duck, as well as having the Capitao on the board. They're more likely not exothermic charge breach garage wall if it happens to be reinforced, and then smoke bolt off all sight lines and go for a cheeky plant next to Snowmobile.
As of the update that came out just a couple days ago, those smoke bolts also got a little bit of a buff for all of you who haven't read your patch notes. They used to last 9 seconds, now they last 11. A little useful if you happen to play the Capitao, so maybe viable, possibly the reason that Presto Dragon is bringing in the Capitao. Maybe it was part of the strat book the entire way, maybe it influenced it a little bit, but was still probably going to be used. Either way, who knows, and at this point for Cincinnati, who cares? It's past the attacker repick time, so they don't have a choice to switch off the Capitao. Not really a thought process for them, it's just how they want to set up. And the answer right now does finally seem to go the way of Solarium. They may actually pressure those windows, just this time on a bottom floor defensive side, and apparently fairly well timed at that.
Getting that drone information early onto Dillian. Note that they're isolated. What is Cincinnati going to do? Quickly cut down that player and take the free kill. Take the free 5v4 that's been given to you. You're not aware that there is in fact a drone hole inside Trophy.
No way.
A beautiful angle to be held for Dark Matter, who realizes that Dillian is more likely than not going to try to crawl away back into their line of sight by creating their own floorboard hole through the short wall they're connecting into kitchen. Another drone going in through Fireplace. Zeph gets spotted, though, as the mezzanine player will wide swing them. Cincinnati have taken a very northward approach in towards site, clearing the majority of the objective first and foremost. Looks like they'll maybe try to take a garage-sided push in through Winery, but that doesn't mean they don't have the option to take the direct in through towards Snowmobile Garage, as they do have pressure in through Fireplace Hall.
You can see how much pressure is being put on everywhere as well. Cincinnati just making sure that Rochester cannot stay safe. And look how condensed they are already. 90 seconds into the round, 1 player dead, and the entirety of Rochester is in between 2 rooms and 2 rooms alone. No, sorry, make it 3 because Gamer's finally gone into the blue hallway. But that's about it. And Cincinnati is collapsing on this defensive side, not allowing them any real estate where you can seem or be safe, and they are not stopping anytime soon. Now the vertical pressure coming through, that buck pick playing fully into the Bearcats' hands, and everybody's having to look up, but Presto looking down and dropping down Cassiopeia 6 feet further under than where they previously were.
Fuse has been popularized in recent memory to use the Fuse nades to blow out the majority of the floorboards inside Central Hall. Not needed when you still have that buck available to work with. Fortunately, not for much longer. Zeph on the nitro cell from below, finally finding a refrag back. Unfortunately, short-lived with Duck's frag back the other way. 2 players versus 4, another huge advantage for Cincinnati. Something they have been privy to the last few rounds already. Dark Matter will plant the diffuser for seemingly the 3rd time here in this series. Penguin will find a nice drag on Zeph, leaving Gamer in a 1v4. Yes, Dark Matter has been tagged, but 3 more players would be around that corner, and Dark Matter still decides to take matter into their own hand, finding the final trumpet blow and singing graces to Cincinnati, who climb ever higher above the competition.
Now 3 straight and 3 unanswered. You were talking about that Fuse pick that was popularized as of somewhat recently. That's an ode to Spiff, who played for Astralis. Now, if I recall correctly, no longer does. Obviously, Astralis not existing anymore. But I can't recall their team off the top of my head. Anyway, Spiff would basically put 2 Fuse charges back to back at the top of mezzanine. One would create the holes, the other would send the pucks through the exact same previously created holes and rain basic hellfire above from 2 floors away. It seemed like if Farah became a Rainbow Six Siege operator and got wall hacks with explosives. It's a wild comparison, but kind of makes sense when you really think. Anyway, Rochester's going to choose their 3rd defensive site now in the rotation, as they will head to Bar and Gaming. Try something different, as they also will go to the 1st floor for the first time thus far.
Barn Gaming is kind of the most stylized objective for, I think, most teams defensively, Dan. I think that's one of the most popular choices. But seeing how Cincinnati have played this series so far, I can't imagine they're going to hold that many difficulties in taking this point. We saw Rochester extend over towards Library in round 1 and 2. Cincinnati did a beautiful job of clearing away Zeph down to the basement and closing them after, and of course closing out Gamer, who was hiding inside White. Cincinnati just have to repeat the same exact thing. Do they want to wide swing out to take down the player who may be sitting over in tight corner in Library? Or do they want to pressure in towards Ego Window and Piano to have pressure in through Ivy Hall to maybe knock down the top of White Stairs? The question is truly in Cincinnati's hands, and they have plenty of util there to burn away the possible ADSs and magnets that could deny the utility burn through Ego Window. But they also have Rotero. They also have nades, and Duck can just play down on that 1st floor in through mud and find themselves a successful frag first and foremost, and give Cincinnati a huge place to play from.
Problems also mounting here for the Rochester defense because of look how far away their setup was, and now look how torn down it's already become. They've been forced to the south side of the map entirely. All 5 players are no further north than that Library Stairs side, and that's it. Cincinnati are not allowing them any room to breathe, and this seems to be a consistent factor of Cincinnati's predominant attack. Duck is lining up a nade trying to go towards Mez, but after the previously damage done, they just have to back away. They've already given up mezzanine. They have the closet hatch open if they want to drop down, I think. No, instead they've reinforced it. They have the library hatch open instead. But the fall away plan is really here just for Dillian, who needs to get out sooner rather than later because there's 90 seconds left, and they lose their life right now, they're going to run into a lot more problems in a 5v4.
Using the majority of your lifeline utility in the pocket of Zofia to maybe burn away some of the util that could be protecting Dillian's flank. That's why DuckDuck had opted not yet to throw those nades, was waiting for it to be 100% clear to make sure they were in full use. Have to keep in mind, those are the only nades that were brought by Cincinnati, and, well, neither one of them found the intended target, but the Rotero drones finally will, clearing away shield on top of that apex position on stairs. They'll have to wide swing through Ivy. Cincinnati take the Ego right to prime. Kodiak and DuckDuck finding a pick a piece, and while yes, Dark Matter has been DBNO'd, their life is still here, having just now been picked up, still giving them a 2-man advantage, which is something Cincinnati have not been keen to lose in every one of the rounds we've seen up to this point. The reason why Cincinnati are sitting so easily at 3-0.
No, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. The more vertical pressure being set up alongside the horizontal compress that's being prepared as well here for Cincinnati is going to make things increasingly more difficult. And that down onto Gamer, now finished by Penguin from up above, is going to make it a 5v2 with 20 seconds left. Now, the one thing on Rochester's side is the time. If Cincinnati takes too long, that 6th man can finally activate, but I don't think it's going to happen. Zeph is left alone and swung by DuckDuck with a P-29 in hand, because why not? Take Sledge's SMG-11 away, and he'll drop you with a sidearm, as Cincinnati make it 4.
2 more rounds left in the half, Dan. And Rochester are no closer, might I add, to finding themselves a first on the board. I don't think we've seen them be able to even up the frags past the first 2 that Cincinnati net. Rochester have just been a team that has been further and further losing player by player. Cincinnati are doing a wonderful job of making sure that even if they were to lose one, a refrag is not far behind. Best way to shut down Cincinnati, in my opinion here, Dan, and I'm Copper 4, so that may not be the best guesstimation on my part.
Everybody run, close your ears, press the mute button bottom left of your screen.
Take down DuckDuck.
All right, continue.
It's as simple as that. DuckDuck's pressure in round 1 and 2 was one of the reasons why Rochester couldn't hold their extension. DuckDuck's pressure through Big Window on Balcony was another reason why they can hold it in that last round. As soon as Dillian thinks they may be safe after both nades go through and don't find impact, the rest of Cincinnati just swing. Remove that player first, they lose their go point, their initial time clock to say, hey, we're sending it in, and that will slow down Cincinnati at least a little bit further, and they almost went off time alone. Rochester had 6 seconds on the clock, now only 1 player up to that point, but time is another player that can assist you. It just unfortunately lost it out because you get rushed by that pistol like you said before.
The aggression for Cincinnati has worked a lot for them, and even while they've waited in more patient ways, the overall pressure set by multiple players at a single time is looking really good for them, especially as they maybe move forward in this bracket. Obviously, this match is far from over. This is only the first map, and this is Cincinnati's map pick, so there are still caveats to their 4-0 scoreline. But it's a 4-0 scoreline, let's be real with each other. It's still looking good for the Bearcats, don't get me wrong. Rochester still have more than enough time to come back in this, but they need to be able to A, find opening kills, B, control real estate for longer periods of time, and C, eliminate the over-aggressive playstyle of this Cincinnati attack, because allowed to continually pressure in and collapse upon what is left of the Tigers' defense. They will not have any safety nets left over, or, if Kodiak can get an angle, no health left either.
Maybe we're just seeing Chalet be Chalet, an attacker favorite map. Maybe we're falling back into that old glory days. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the collegiate scene that still sits pretty in that equilibrium. It is an equilibrium right off the bat, though. Kill for kill, trading now to a 4 versus 4. You do lose the Izami, so losing out on those barricades in the later stages of the round may be slightly hurtful. But you do lose a lot of that initiating potential behind your Zofia's lifeline. Cincinnati will still feel the oh-so-recurring pain, their growing pains, as they still brew up their attack in towards the objective. Still have to deal with the player over on Mezzanine. It's Gamer now hiding behind a shield, an ADS or 2, in fact, giving them control and coverage. This is where Penguin would have been very nice alongside DuckDuck, but now DuckDuck has to do it all by themselves. First nade, 8, and it's hounding for another one, but it's Dillian that actually finds the next point of impact, taking down DuckDuck. Not even a second nade can be thrown.
And Kodiak actually has their Rotero drone taken as well, so they're still trying to displace this Jaeger, but they haven't had the availability to do so. This is the confidence playing in for Rochester. That opening kill and the follow-up trade off the back of it gave them that man advantage, and now they're just waiting. There's no reason for them to over-regress at this point. They have a man advantage and just 50 seconds left on that clock. Cincinnati is finally in a pressure point. They have the pressure on them. The question is, can they relieve it? Can the scalpel be handed over to the correct doctor in hand? The answer thus far seems to be yes, as Presto will even that man count, but Dark Matter doesn't drone into Library and off the back of it dies because
precision is needed for every surgeon out there. Can't get your degree if you're imprecise. And Cincinnati are quickly losing their doctorate. Dillian with a headshot kill to Kodiak. Just Presto Dragon remaining, and just like that, it is an ace, I believe. Knocked in may just be an R6 moment at its finest, but a Q-cut round finally on the board here, Dan, for Rochester. Something that has been much needed for them after the, well, egregious 4-0 start that was given to Cincinnati right at the beginning here of Chalet.
One back, and that's a start. We were talking about how Chalet used to be significantly attacker-sided and now has fallen more towards the defenders, but not predominantly at any specific time. By the way, fun fact for all of you who do follow professional play, in every region other than North America, every single map summed up and then broken down is attacker-sided, other than North America's. Not maps in particular, but the regions as a whole. And that means that by no means is a specific game going to cost you if you, for instance, lose an extra round on the what would be favorable side. Or is a subtractive round going to cost you at that same point. Cincinnati have that 3-round lead with 4 rounds on the board. The worst case for them is 4-2 at the half, so they're in a good spot. But they can't get complacent because Rochester, with a couple rounds of their own, can bring it right near even as well.
Zeph chasing down a drone as best they can. Penguin just trying to keep it alive. It will escape through that billiards drone hole. I mean, Cincinnati have yet another key core component of their kit. The most important component of an attacker's kit, the drone, still available for them. Round prep phase officially over for Rochester, and look at the extension they're opting for here. Maybe a vote of confidence after their last round win. The Oryx for Dillian, huge extension up through Solarium stairs, through Solarium itself, and now over through the northern side of the second floor as a whole. But Cincinnati Diffuser specifically in the hands of Dark Matter looks like they will prime themselves up through Trophy like we've seen them do before. Unfortunately, Dillian not looking to give them their feet like they had previously through that Trophy drone hole. Instead, looking to be a lot more agile and a lot less, I would say, immobile, having brought the Oryx up to this point to have that hasty getaway.
Still upset they took the 1.5 away.
Yeah, it sucks.
At least at like this point in the season. New season, sure. Take the 1.5 away. Do the same to Capcan. But middle of a season, in the middle of a meta, still a little upsetting. But I digress. Cincinnati's attack really not hindered in any way. If anything, the SC3000K is a little buffed, as is their Capital, because of that 2-second smoke buff just the same. So if you're really looking at it, picking it apart, buff by buff, nerf by nerf, Cincinnati's winning the overall trade, but overall they've been winning the overall gunfights just the same. Up 4-1 and doing a decent bit of damage on his Zeph, forcing him out of position already, just a minute and change into the round. And they're not safe. They're being pressured from multiple angles. The front of Mezzanine, most importantly, but Duck actually losing the fight and playing with the MP7 on the 0, almost costing their life. And this time it does. It's instead the T5 to come out on top of 2 separate fights. A single trade is found, almost a follow-up, and Penguin does indeed make it a 2K for both himself and Dillian. But it's overall a 3v3 once more as we reach dead even keels again.
It was a bit too late to save their teammate for that second frag, but makes quick work of 2 more to at least even things out. I'm sure they're plenty happy with that. Do feel a little bit of pressure coming in from the basement staircase leading over from the library stairs. It was Pyro to aggress. They'll now be forced to fall back ever so slightly. They'll even send out a Toxic Babe. Maybe quite wary of the fact that player could still be lying in wait. They'll summon over here towards the actual B-bomb chassis of that fireplace stairwell as well. An elbow staircase can be quite dangerous, and it looks like Cincinnati may be priming themselves to pursue it. They'll let Exothermic now breach through the garage hard wall, giving them a sight line maybe to deny another smoke being tossed from Blue Hall. but if they're not fast enough on the draw, Cincinnati will not get the chance to drop through. This hatch could be the only play to come out, and Presto Dragon may be the facilitator of it. Smoke Bolt out fire first, nay I add, followed by the smoke to cut off huge sightlines.
There's the smoke follow-up as well from Dark, but it's caught out by an ADS, and it cuts off their line of sight. Gamer's able to find a kill off the back of it, and a 3v2 diffuser down. They need to recuperate it, but they cannot do so safely. Gamer will find a follow-up, and Presto, even though they drop into the connector, can't do a dang thing about it. Cassiopeia was playing on the Warden, so that extra utility was null and void regardless of its efficacy overall. And Rochester make it a 4-2 split at the half. They bring back the final 2 rounds and make it a negligible one for themselves.
You're going for a plant right through the breach of Garage. Why send both players there? Leave one of your players. They were initially there to go down elbow stairwell. That can hold from the initial peak of it, Blue Hall's door. That means that your player, Dark Matter, that's going for the plant on the back of having their thermite breach can be safe stepping in through their own breach. It wasn't there. Cincinnati give away what could have been a very clean plant and escape back through to the outside of Snowmobile. But instead, they give Rochester the chance to allow Cincinnati to trickle in and fight one-on-ones that are just easily advantage of Rochester at that range. Clean cut round that ends our halftime for Cincinnati's assault in a 4-2 margin. Still a very dominant performance from them, but those last 2 rounds left a lot to be desired down.
Especially for their level of aggression that we saw early on. It worked nearly perfectly for them. Drone, utility, kill, retreat. Rochester was on the retreating side of that. And then every single time, you would rinse and repeat for basically 4 straight rounds, regardless of the site, and it worked. Until they changed it up a little bit, and it didn't. The old engineer's motto is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They tried to mold what was already a solution. Unfortunately, making it a problem for themselves, of which they couldn't find one before. And Rochester are able to find a couple rounds out the back end now on their attacking side, bringing a similar lineup, not carbon copy, but similar to say the very least. Dillian, notably, is bringing A, the Ash, and B, an R4C, of which you don't see that much anymore.
A mistake made by Cassiopeia there. The first cam sent out tags the window frame. Has to resend out a second. And while, yes, a Mozzie pest does get rid of the drone that was put and pursued by Dillian, they get information off of it. They note for a fact that Kodiak was lying over there in stock, so they may have to re-swing that one after clearing their drone first and foremost, so that has to deny the later prevalence amount of that information that drone can gain. Penguin, though, has not been droned away, maybe because Dillian felt that they had nothing more to work with. They're lying on mezzanine, and, well, Dillian will now lie there for the remainder of this round as they were clean-cut stroke through. Dark Matter holding on top of Library Staircase, though. 1 player in Ego Window. Drone moving forward. That one has been stolen by Mozzie Pass, but that nets up a 416 shot to Library, followed up with 1 through Ego Window. And almost another for a 3K potentially, but a hasty retreat made. The damage has been done. Cincinnati hold on strong with a man advantage.
And a patient disengage to really cap it all off as well, making sure that Dark Matter could get out alive and not give up what is currently a 2-man advantage and make it only 1. Now Kodiak trying to set up what could be a C4, possibly just shots straight through the hatch. They do miss, but only barely. Gamer's on low HP. Even a P10 through a hatch would probably be lethal should 1 or 2 shots land. Gamer's reaction times are good, onto the wrong targets maybe, but reaction times are there nonetheless as they try to shoot their own drone. But Cincinnati's defense is fairly well set up. Rochester has limited utility, the extent of which being the Selmas, of which are and of course the nades from Gamer to try and get in and on towards the site, but they A, still have to worry about that flank, of which they only have 1 drone to worry about or to work with, and B, they have to worry about the site itself, but they've at least found a kill off the back of it to drop Dark Matter on that flank.
Feels like Gamer did not trust the drone that was already in play for the flank watch, seemingly feeling it necessary to toss their own. Zeph did have the pressure initially in through that study door frame. Will go ahead and take a couple steps back for now, which will also force Presto Dragon just slightly away. Nitrocell has been tossed early. This could be something that would matter, but it actually has to land correctly for it to be a point. But it's still Cincinnati with the man advantage. They just don't have that, ease of access for that util. Duck, a stray shot barely connecting to Zeph. Bit haywire, true and true. They will throw another Toxic Babe out into the field. That will be the last one in the bucket there of Duck. Presto will go in for yet another one. There's a final Nitro Cell that will, in fact, connect. This one sent by Kodiak. If the first don't work, The second may as well fix it. That will be a round won by Cincinnati's defense.
Defenders disable the diffuser.
And it will re-extend the lead to 3. Their 2-round skid has come to a fairly quick conclusion. Valiant effort from RIT to come back into the round there, but overall they just did not have the map control to warrant a plant without a follow-up kill. If you take that as a 2v3, as it really was, then you maybe have a shot, but they tried to get the diffuser down a little prematurely without the cover that was previously set up. It was, of course, being pushed forward, which ended up costing them a follow-up kill. And Cincinnati was able to, again, play patiently, similar to that of how they played round number 1 on that exact same site. But back then, it was on the attack, and they already had the real estate to work with.
Dan, do you think that Cincinnati will already reach match point up to here? We are playing over towards Barn Game, something that they were pretty nicely, I would say, driven on their attack. They did give up fairly early control of Library, but they held it with Dark Matter at an angle. Do you think Cincinnati are going to find an angle once again? Because Rochester just felt lost pursuing it through Library Window.
I like their operator composition. That's what really stands out to me. It's not all that much different than what Rochester was running, but the main difference is the Wamai on the board. Yeah, the alibi is not too staunch of a difference, but it leads to a little bit more aggression for Duck Duck, who has yet to find a kill in the last 3 rounds, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. They went 8-0 in rounds 1 through 4, and looked pretty good doing so. If they can find a little bit more aggression, and most importantly, that utility denial set up on the defensive side, notably, of course, that mute Jaeger Wamai combination can all work the way they're intended, Rochester's going to have a lot of problems getting in. The one caveat is that Flores. It has to find payoff. If it doesn't, this is probably a Cincinnati round.
I will point out there were 3 Duck Ducks, all with slightly different names in the collegiate R6 scene. There is one in the collegiate Valorant scene, and statistically speaking, that must be the best gamer tag out there, because every Duck Duck I've ever had the pleasure of casting has been an absolute menace. It's ridiculous.
Did you know there's another Ducks playing right now for Drexel?
Really?
In the other round of 12 game? Yeah. They're currently 9-7, so anything that has to do with Duck is pretty good. Even in a, they're losing 6-2 to St. Clair, and yet they're still 9-7.
Ducks are scared, to be fair. Have you seen a duck's mouth?
Max. I have. That's frightening. We have geese on campus, and they're protected, and it's like, I keep my social distance.
Well, we had a lion on my campus, and we definitely were required to keep our social distance from that. But Cincinnati,
Alabama moment.
Cincinnati defensively will be giving up their position on top of Library Staircase.
No, the mute!
No, the mute jammer, denying the Rotero drone. Wonderful placement by Cincinnati. Not needing a magnet that will Mai there. Instead, just rely on the ADSs initially, the magnets to go back on recharge, and then a mute jammer on top of it. So much utility denial against Rochester, and I thought they were, and I'm sure they thought as well, we're already done with the top of Library Staircase and could have already been direct pressuring from above.
Oh,
awkward.
Outstanding first flash. The second one does land, but the third should be caught by the other ADS. No, it goes off the other side of the wall. So they've thrown out more of their utility, the extent of which remains is 1 Ash charge, of which is being reloaded. That gets caught out by an ADS, but the follow-up finally does hit, but so does Presto's 9mm C1. A kill onto Cassiopeia, Dark Matter's prepping a C4 from Dining, and Cincinnati have a 5v3, and oh, they may very well have a 5v2 in the next few seconds. There's a C4. It is about 4 seconds too late, though, living nearly up to its name. They may not have much relief to their problems anyway.
Ilian almost getting the better end of Duck Duck, but it's Penguin actually the next player to pounce. Presto Dragon finding the cheekiest of angles up inside Library, and a second one following suit onto Gamer, who is trying to apply direct pressure in through Mezzanine, in through the window, to maybe try to take down Duck Duck, who was there moments prior holding actual fireplace side of Mezzanine, but doesn't even get the chance to pressure. Rochester will now allow Cincinnati to reach match point. Map 1 may already be done here, Dan, if Cincinnati have the way with this round.
I said that Flores had to come online, and it really did not, at least not early enough. If that first Flores drone landed, the Rotero drone took out the double ADS, the mute jammer, the follow-up Wamai magnet, and the deployable shield and took all that real estate, then you're probably looking at a Rochester arguable round. But they dedicated A, too much time, B, too many resources, and T and C, too much manpower. I skipped about 17 letters. Yes, I actually counted T as number 20.
Is hard.
Cincinnati on that defense, they were just content with playing around their strengths and resting with their laurels, as Rochester now has to surmount a 4-round deficit as they come back.
Cincinnati defensively now getting to choose a whole new objective to work with after the successes they've had prior. They're going to opt to go for kitchen and dining, something that Rochester, well, they really like the second floor. That was their go-to proving ground, and they didn't prove very much. They proved Cincinnati right, so maybe they would like to transition their strategy the other way, same as Cincinnati has done here. It has fallen more into that, fourth objective of choice. Billiards and bar has always been a favorite. Basement has stepped into the meta hugely in the last 6-7 months. And, well, same thing cannot be said. That second floor objective of Master Bedroom and office. It just is not the go-to point to hold defensively in Cincinnati. Seemingly readily aware of that one. They're going breach and reinforce. Let's say breach. They're going reinforce all corner walls leading in towards dining. And it doesn't look like they're going to have very heavy of an extension in towards library or towards the southern side of the map as a whole. And we'll have to hold off that second floor as if they were defending it, but they have the leeway of a fallback point by dropping down to the first. And speaking of dropping down, Dillian does exactly that through a frost map.
So a core game mechanic of Rainbow Six Siege is droning. Every player gets 2 drones, and when you use them, you can detect information without costing yourself your life. PSA to Dillian.
Seems broken.
That unfortunate frost mat. Yeah, drones are kind of broken. So is one-shot headshots, because Kodiak just got clotheslined from the door. An unfortunate window shot, sorry. But Flash around the corner. Pyro flashes himself, second time in 2 rounds, and are going to have some problems pushing in, but Penguin's still content with just sitting here with the Commando 9 in hand.
This is not the position you want to be sitting either, Dan. Penguin is in a spot where they unfortunately be playing to die with all the util sent their way. How did Rochester just allow for Penguin to escape? A miracle already here. I'd say a miracle on ice because it'd be fitting the Penguin's name, but the ability to skate around that corner as quick as can be, it has to be an ice skating show, a figure skating show, at least, because it was beautiful. They'll now be allowed into the master bathroom, be able to drop through the solarium staircase, and have that direct pressure to be able to bunker up on site. And well, yes, Rochester will have the freedom of using the skeleton key in the hands of Pyro to break down these floorboards and apply direct pressure vertically. Cincinnati can just deny the initial sightlines by playing in rooms that don't have verticality issues, like dining in the first place, or maybe even extending out towards mezzanine, where Gamer is really the only person there until finally we see a drop down come forward for Cassiopeia, who's going to set up the pincer angle to make sure that Cincinnati can't sit still in sight.
This has to work early, though. They cannot afford for a lot of this to cost them either time or resources. C4 over top, it lands and kills Zeph, but that exothermic charge will still go off. Unfortunately for the RIT attack, as will the Commando 9 of Penguin, as Pyro is taken care of. A follow-up with the SMG-11. Dark Matter makes it a double, this time with their sidearm. And Rochester Institute of Technology have 130 HP left here on Chalet. Dillian far removed from the site, and Gamer, as we just saw, was walking up the stairs, instead walks straight to their demise from long range, and Presto should be able to close it out. The C4 just barely misses, but Dillian just does not have the time. 20 HP in a dream, of which he will soon realize is more than a nightmare. A follow-up C4 misses just the same, but an inconsequential whiff nonetheless, as the Bearcats make it a 7-2 first map in their favor.
And while yes, Chalet does tend to be in the collegiate scene somewhat lopsided, it's not always the go-to map for most teams. Cincinnati showcased that it is their go-to. They enjoy this map. Penguin, the main facilitator, 5,300 score, the golden goose, ironically enough, for their team. And I said it best. I think Cincinnati at the very beginning, I called out 3 very pivotal players, and while Presto Dragon and Kodiak did fall back a little bit, Penguin and Duck Duck, apparently it's just an animal difference. Some say they got that dog in them. Some would say that they've got that, I would say, flightless bird energy, but I'm pretty sure ducks can fly here, Dan.
Oh, definitely. And one thing that really surprises me is the pop-off early for Cincinnati really relied on Duck Duck going. They went 8-0 in the first 4 rounds. I don't know if you just saw their KD. It was 9-2 after 9 rounds. In 5 rounds, they found 1 kill and 2 deaths. For all of you mathematicians out there, 60% of the final 5 rounds, they took a gunfight. That alone is surprising, but the fact that Cincinnati kept up that dominance shows how put together of a team they are and how confident they are in each other's play styles. That's what really makes a good squad, especially in what can be such a chaotic collegiate scene.
I think one of the biggest factors for success early in the rounds for Cincinnati's attack, where they took the 4-2 split right off the bat, was the fact that the majority of the First Bloods were RIT shooting themselves in the foot. Zeph not rotating fast enough away, taking a very poor rotate, and that allowed for Duck to give the information and follow up for the kill. You had Dillian, who had a problem escaping away from Trophy through the drone hole, had to crawl back into the line of sight. Once again, players that were extended but unsafe. They extend smartly, but their positioning is poor, and it only warrants droning, which was so prevalent for Cincinnati, let's be honest, to find those individuals. And once that happened, you would see the go-to forefront players for Cincinnati, who maybe were pressuring Ego window or maybe over towards library window. They would instantly rotate back over, start to pressure into the second floor piano window because they wanted to cut off that approach back to site. They were too quick-witted, and ultimately RIT weren't fast enough on the draw to win those engagements on their retreat.
Well, there has to be a return for RIT. We will head to their own map pick and the Villa of Tuscany, Italy, when we return from our break. First map victory for the University of Cincinnati on their own map selection of Chalet, kicking things off exactly as they wanted. Up 1-0 as they've dropped the Tigers down and against the ropes. I'm Time to Light. Joined alongside me here is Infernosa still for our NACE Star League 2023 Spring Playoffs here in Rainbow Six Siege. And what has to change for RIT? Obviously, it's their map pick, so there is a caveat to that first map loss, but something has to go better for them as we move to Italy.
RIT just had a lot of problems, whether it was giving up first bloods or whether it was falling victim to having all of their utility burned way too early. I think we could give highlights over to Cincinnati. Can't just totally dig off against RIT. Cincinnati did a wonderful job of making sure util was, well, not there much longer than it needed to be. They weren't falling into the final 20 seconds, but still utility to work against. They were getting the job done at 60 seconds left, a minute and a half left in the round on their attacks. That was the case in round 1 and round 2, which is one of the reasons why I think RIT should have strayed away from their first objective of choice there on Chalet just a little bit sooner than they had. But it's a bit of RIT's fault, just as much as it is Cincinnati doing a good job. RIT needs to make quicker work of defending that util and not just placing it for, inevitably getting burned. Try to make it survive. Best case scenario you do. Worst case, you can fall back to your next point.
Well, absolutely nothing changing here as we move a few countries over Swiss Alps to Italy. Yeah, it's really just a single border, but you get the general idea. Cincinnati still banning out that Nook, but a return from RIT actually taking away the Ying. And I have to appreciate a Ying ban. I hate playing against Ying unless I'm playing Warden, and then it's my favorite operator to play against because obviously direct counters. A few changes still, though, in this operator ban phase, as an Azami is followed up with RIT changing over their bans just a little bit from what we saw back on Chalet.
The Azami ban, once again, like I've mentioned, being one of the go-to bans. I think one of the top 4 top bans. Valkyrie also being in that top 4 selection. It's not too shocking. I am still shocked to see the Collegiates be so hung up on the Nook, first and foremost. Honestly. But I do know that DuckDuck really does like to play that Nook. And wouldn't be shocked if it was still a huge concern. Maybe a target ban, like we had mentioned. RIT wasn't necessarily as well known. Cincinnati has a lot more behind them in terms of VODs and other leagues and scenes that they're in. Maybe this was a target, maybe it was not. We'll have to see as time goes on. But RIT do get to start off on the attack. Something that they struggled with just the map prior on Chalet. In fact, here, Dan, they didn't take a single round under their belt. The only ones they won were tried and true when they were holding up on the defense, and they barely squeaked those through as well.
And Cincinnati starting off on the defensive side of a notably defender-sided map most of the time. Gamer at least gets their drone out, so RIT are going to keep, I believe, all 5 of those online. No, they've lost Dillions at this point. Either way, RIT's defensive side has to change as they move to the second half. It looked okay in our first map, but it did not stick as I think long as they wanted it to, or as early as they needed it to. Cincinnati on this defense are bringing a Kai, and no Thatcher to respond here for RIT. Does that just lead them to a north side take? Are they going to void study altogether?
You don't necessarily have to void study, but it does complicate your approach to that veranda, Dan. It does mean that they will more likely than not, instead of just applying pressure through study and getting veranda control, they need to move through main staircase and take control of our classical hall from the, southern edge first and foremost. They can't just take it direct from, main landing. They'll actually have to peruse the other way. Cutoff angle was held by Pyro. That's a missed opportunity for sure. Sure, they're plenty happy with that if you're on the side of the fansphere for Cincinnati. Presto Dragon even ripping a Nitro Cell, ready to send it off through that window. Maybe it'll get some damage, but Pyro will manage to avoid that danger initially. DuckDuck is the first to fall, but not without a refrag back the other way. Kodiak finds their target with the 416C, and that will equalize things up for a little bit longer with already having 60 seconds ticking away on the clock.
You're seeing some aggression here from Cincinnati as well. DuckDuck notably dying in that master doorway. There is retribution, sure, but you don't want to lose one of your main fraggers in the previous round, or the previous map, or at least the first 4 rounds of the previous map, fairly early on in this series, especially when they're playing on the alibi where you really just want to leave them for frag. Sure, you don't have any utility you have to worry about losing with them. Presto Dragon being picked out of this bottom floor with the Ionox scanner is having problems here for Cincinnati, as they will have to compress a little bit, as RIT is forcing Cincinnati to do exactly what Cincinnati did to RIT back in the earlier stages of Chalet.
I think RIT may need to get some pep in their step. They feel like they're a little lackluster, maybe a bit too slow, maybe got some oil underneath their feet. It's a tar pit for sure, but it's a slippery slope. You go too slow, you're going to fall victim in the final 30 seconds. Let's keep in mind, most of the util that has been set up by Cincinnati is still on site. And while, yeah, there are no Banshees to worry about, Malusi was not selected for Cincinnati, there still is the ever-prevalent danger of having the nitro cells be ripped and sent your way. Prestos has already been sent out, so yes, one is no longer on the board, but Penguin is holding on to theirs. And Penguin could pivot down through main stairs because guess what? No control has been gained or sent that way for the RIT side, and you can send it underneath from within piano and find a kill for a player going for plant behind maps. It's just a bad place to be in.
I was about to say, Penguin just found that shot with the TCSG through the drone hole. You could see Cassiopeia trying to figure out where it came from. Zeph throws the Selma straight in an electrified wall, and now RIT, with their lackluster timing, has been caught out. Presto on the study door, shots across. They switch over towards the backside of that vault door, but instead, it's perfectly fine with the Toxic Babes previously established. There's the follow-up from Presto to find a double kill, and Penguin will close it out with the slug shotgun itself. And Cincinnati start off Villa exactly as we saw on Chalet, dominance and confidence as they win Aviator games.
Given no chance to find success, you put yourself in that worst situation. If you're going to send 3 players through Skull, through landing, and trying to take control over towards maps, you need to have pressure in through study. The first attempt for the plant would have worked if it wasn't from the player holding study door to get the kill first. And while, yes, you did refrag back, but Diffuser is now isolated behind Vault Door, where every Toxic Babe is going to be sent from this point on. Meaning you have to step into that cubby, then retreat out of it. That is too much distance to travel while still taking damage from the Toxic Babe, as well as the tracers that are being sent your way. It makes the whole attempt useless. RIT, because of that, will now find themselves victim to Cincinnati's defense, and Cincinnati will ride that high now moving into round 2 as they transition away from that Planes and Games Room side now over towards Statuary and Trophy, where it'll be up to RIT to decide whether they want to take a very direct approach through the Master Bedroom side, clearing away that triple hard wall as well as taking pressure through Astronomy, or should they choose to decide to move in from Veranda and take the south to north approach, a total opposite of what they did just last round.
It seems like they would favor more of that long, drawn-out clear on the RIT side, but honestly, I don't think they have time for it. Sure, their operator composition would lead more towards that, as so does most of their spawn places, because Pyro's the only one that spawned on the fountain side. Cassiopeia and everybody else spawned to ruins, so it seems like the latter is the case. It's south over, veranda / main door, vertical and horizontal, to try and clear out room from room, section by section of this map. This time, however, it has to be significantly quicker than what we saw in the previous round here for RIT. They cannot afford to take so much time. They're already going to use a nade, of which was fairly well placed, just the problem is all of 4 seconds too late, and Duck Duck makes it out with their life, and with a drone, and a little bit of utility on top.
Duck is in a pretty precarious position. Thankfully, does have Vault at which they can, stray in towards and use that as a point to pivot out through towards that Skull side and through the map door frame. But you don't want to give up control of Classical Hall just yet, do you? You still got drones perusing on in. You still got the ever-present dangers of Dillian, who you know was there just moments prior, who's still deciding whether or not they want to commit to the Classical Hall push or if they want to wait for the rest of the team to swing out through Veranda. Duck Duck, though, starting to escalate the concern for the side of RIT. They'll take first blood, and though Kodiak finds a second for their team of Cincinnati, Cassiopeia's quick on that refrag, and it will force Cincinnati smartly to pivot back towards site and hold for a bunker.
Is it too little too late? That's the real problem. 90 seconds into the round, sure, you've basically cleared out everything that isn't the site or a room directly bordering it. But you've already lost that net advantage, and look at the utility now left over. Sure, you have all of your Argus cameras. Those are mostly to use your flanks. They aren't going to clear out all that much utility on site. Gemini Replicator being put forward, possibly clear out a Surrey Gate. It does just that. But can they actually find positions off the back of whatever utility they have left over? Those Selma charges aren't going to do a dang thing. There's no reinforced walls that are useful between where they are and where the site is. and Cincinnati's happy to just wait. As we've seen in rounds prior, this disengage is perfectly prepped for them, and they know exactly when and how they need to and will re-engage.
Zeph's going to go ahead and pivot out to the outside terrace, looking to swing in through that master bedroom window. Some teams opt to go for this from the get-go, and it gives them plenty of time to clear away that master bathroom control, as well as the possibility of reaching one or more of that triple wall leading in towards statuary. I do like the pincer that is being set up here for RIT. Zeph gets good control and is able to use that to take down one. Dillion, though, with low HP, sends out a sick nade, taking down Penguin, but Duck claps back, and as the Surrey gate gets reset, they'll swing through first and foremost. Dillion gets through sneakily, finding Duck at the other end. But with 6 seconds left, red time ticking away, Dark Matter will have to try to find the safe space to get a kill, but switches to the shotgun, running out of ammo. You're already on your secondary. Just go prone and reload, but it's too little too late. We have the chance of being omnipotent here in the booth, but they don't have that luxury. Round 2 will fall in favor of RIT cleanly.
Zaddy's defensive side falling a little lackluster in that. Good pincer maneuver late in the round for RIT, since he was basing themselves on the fact that RIT would have a very one-dimensional push. And in all fairness, it was looking that way. We have X-ray vision, and that's really what it looked like. All 3 players on landing, top red stairs, setting themselves in through the trophy entrance. But instead, that re-aggression and redirection from Zeph forced Penguin out of position. The ADSs that were previously set up had no effect on the nade thrown through by Dillion, the last one available, by the way. And that kill really set the domino effect forward. The collapse came through from Master. The follow-up kill was there on a trade on the bomb chassis. And honestly, Dark Matter probably couldn't have told you what site he was on, much less who he was trying to kill when he was overwhelmed from 2 separate angles. And RIT are able to base themselves and their attack on the fact that they were unsuspected from a different angle.
RIT are opting to go for pretty much the same central idea of retaking this one.
5 seconds left.
Talk about the dangers that were prevalent just in that last round. RIT had to sneak in through that Syria gate that got reset through that statuary door. And that's what gave them the drop on Duck. If Duck had been allowed to still sit behind the A-bomb chassis, realizing that a player could not step through as they had thought with the Syria gate being reset, the round would have come out completely differently. Dillion was down to cleanly enough HP at which the Surrey gate would have at least downed them or gotten close. A single shot would have secured past that point, and Duck's not one to typically miss engagements like that. I still liked what Cincinnati brought on the board. Their extension, much like they're perusing here once again, all the way over through planes and games, it netted them 2 kills, with a hasty retreat back, only losing 1 man. And to make matters worse for RIT, it looks like the same exact thing may just happen here again. Cassiopeia's done and dusted. Duck ready to bring another player to their grave, and that's all she wrote. Dillion off the board. They'll even swing back down through main stairs. They're getting aggressive, overconfident maybe, and maybe overzealous.
Maybe, but they haven't been punished for that overzealousness, at least not thus far. Still looking to try and play aggressive, this time through the 90 hatch. But finally, RIT will look to drone in and slow themselves down. A minute and change gone in this round, and they've lost 2 players and gained study control only. That is the extent of map control they have thus far. And then maybe 90, but you kind of get that as a formality because the window's there. It's problems mounting, but a single solution is found. An upside down rappel and a kill and a duck, as they bring 1 kill back and make it a little easier to try and collapse on the site.
Same exact scenario we saw unfold just last round down. RIT lose 2 players, they get 1 back. This time around, though, it's not Duck that had lost their life last round, but it will be them that loses theirs here. And to be fair, Duck was the facilitator of those 2 kills back. To get revenged in return, you kind of have to expect it at this point. They'll swing in through trophy entrance, Pyro, following behind the Gemini replicator that was sent to clear the Surya gate. But Presto Dragon with a marksman rifle through a wall takes down Zeph. RIT have not diversified their angles to work from. They have not sent a player through the master bedroom just yet. And keep in mind, that was one of the reasons why we saw RIT find success by closing out Presto Dragon, who was initially holding in through that master bedroom door. It's a completely big problem and a wrong way to go about it for RIT. They swing over to Dark Matter. First player loses their life breaching through the door frame, and the second one just gets swung upon. And there is not a care in the world behind those eyes. Round over, Cincinnati very dominantly in control for that one.
You know, I've unofficially dubbed the Mossberg the clothesline, considering the effect it pertains to the ragdolls it sends sprawling on the floor more often than not. And Cincinnati are playing around their advantages significantly better. And from what we've seen thus far in the series as a whole, not only here on Villa, they are learning from mistakes. For instance, what we saw back on Chalet, they were limiting their aggression and not forcing RIT out of position in that first half, so instead they still played aggressive while limiting their own aggression in the second, making sure they didn't overextend and get caught out while trying to do so. This time around, and in that round specifically, they found a kill, even two, there as Duck Duck found a double on the UMP-45, and only sent Duck Duck for more. It was basically a 1v3 for Duck Duck on the rest of the map, as Cincinnati didn't want to take the fight. They were playing a 4v0 on the site itself, and patiently waiting RIT to try and take those fights, of which it honestly took them A, little bit too long to do so, and B, when they did, they lost Zeph, who was really the X factor in that previous round around towards the master window we talked about earlier.
Why not take it still? Just because you lose the man that was initially the player to do so doesn't mean it's still impossible.
Attackers must locate and defuse a bomb.
It's a problem, but it's not a problem that RIT will necessarily have to think about for at least another round. And we're back over to the Planes and Games Room objective. And Cincinnati will have their, I guess, pick of how they'll play it, as RIT are going to go for the same exact approach they had done prior, completely ignoring the option of Veranda over on the south side or east side of the map. The issue is, with all 5 players pushing this direction, let's recall a couple rounds back, recant a tale here, Dan. Cincinnati had no problem, because they still had the most of their util remaining on site, plenty of toxic babes, and there was 20 seconds left for RIT to get into a site and plant, and that got denied lickety-split, which meant the fuser was out of place and they had no chance to go for it.
An EE1D off the back of drones, they have some information to work off of which is fairly reliable. The problem is they took a little bit too long to set it up. Duck Duck has been seen. You can see the little outline of a drone in the bottom corner there a couple times. I'm not sure if that was around towards the bottom at Red Stairs or inside of the living room itself. Either way, a small amount of either audible or visual information has been gained by this RIT half, and this is significantly different than what we've seen in rounds prior as well. They're taking much less time to try and create space for themselves. They've already cleared almost the entire north side of the building with respect to living room only, and even then they're still pretty happy with that. The caveat is Duck Duck is down in living room, Presto has a Mozzie drone to work with, and a C4 possibly as well. If they can find a kill here and then retreat, Cincinnati's looking at a similar advantage to what we've seen in prior rounds.
Presto Dragon still lingering about on this first floor, highlighting the Nitro cell could come true, as the default cam been clear. Is the information that could give that position away available? Time will tell, but Presto Dragon's waiting for that call out. They do lose Duck Duck, an unfortunate happenstance, an unfortunate casualty of this round early, something that Duck Duck has not been prone to in a lot of this series, at least not without getting a kill first and foremost. Huge Nitro by Presto, 2 kills off the back of it, and Presto will now be allowed to rotate through main stairs. That was diffuser dropped as well, though Dillian pretty darn close to it. It's not going to be a big problem to close that one back away. Player rotating outside for RIT, maybe looking to go through the main stairwell, but Gamer on the inside of landing towards Bust takes down Presto. The long shot clean, and the toxic babes are already being utilized despite the fact that 40 seconds were left in the clock.
And perfect timing on those toxic babes as well, because that second one's thrown with 30 seconds left, 15 seconds of efficacy per toxic babe. The last one's thrown at perfect timing and into the doorway itself. It actually forces them back. Yes, they can get that diffuser down, but they have to walk through a lot of damage to do so. There's the aggression, but Penguin finds the kill. The swing around instead will go for the melee. It's down to Pyro only, who will find a first down, but no finish and no round, as Dark Matter will shut him down for his transgressions. The 9 mil to the face with the SMG-11 will cost him his life, and Cincinnati pick up a third.
With that toxic bay being tossed a little too far, that does mean they have to pivot one player to the other side of Vault Door. And honestly, even if that was done on purpose, great strategy. A great calculation and a great adjustment because of that last toxic babe toss. a beautiful play for them, and Cincinnati will ride that high once again and move forward now going into round 5. We will finally get to see our tertiary bomb site of choice, kitchen and dining. My favorite objective on all of R6. Will Cincinnati impress me, or will RIT find something to answer back? Because that last round, they finally once again brought some sort of pressure through main or veranda, got into study, but it was just too little too late, Dan. A big problem that we've seen be plaguing RIT map after map now to the second one and round after round already here on Villa.
You know, you could say kitchen and dining's your favorite site in all of Rainbow Six Siege, but you could also say that for any one of our 3 maps played today. A little fun fact of the day. It's a site on Chalet, Villa, and Oregon, for all of you who don't specifically keep track of site names. I'm not sure if it's a part of any other of the 6 maps in the pool. I'll have to do my due diligence on that one. But for the time being, at least the 3 that are being played here, it does indeed apply. I also like kitchen dining, but I more err towards the Chalet side of kitchen dining. That's my favorite site in all of Rainbow Six Siege, mainly because of the overwhelming verticality that helps you and the fallback plan that you have. I also like the setup here for Cincinnati. It's nothing too different from the norm. The castle, however, included in this conversation alongside the Pulse, the double FBI defensive setup, is something I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Because Cincinnati's been playing very aggressive in a lot of these rounds, but with this composition, it honestly errs a lot more towards patience and hesitancy to try and take those gunfights.
RIT is going to be very reliant on taking control of the second floor. Just to be frank, they need control on the second floor. A nade toss, which was interesting. I like the idea through Skylight to maybe clear away a player or the util that's actively denying the Electro Claw there on the wall for triple in master bedroom, but it doesn't really find the target. Good news is for RIT, Dan, they got 3 more. 2 in the hands of Gamer, 1 still in the pocket there of Dillion. I think they've all rotated off of the rooftop and have now made their way, I would say, into the map, but mostly just sitting still outside the master bedroom. Once they can breeze through that wall and get control, that's where the Sledge and the Buck of Pyro can step up big and start creating an open floor plan, effectively ruining the resale value here of this gorgeous villa in Tuscany, Italy. But something that Cincinnati are willing to take on the chin. But that Nitro Cell is not being taken anywhere. Too little too late. And that even lets Cassiopeia swing forward to take down Duck Duck over on that staircase.
That's a kill you were really banking on as well on this defensive setup. Kodiak should back away here. The overaggression could cost them. Nice angle being held, but they will indeed be forced out of position. And good patience and disengagement from Cincinnati again. They have not been caught out playing overaggressive too many times in this series, and they're going to make sure this is not one of those rounds that becomes an exception to the rule. RIT needs to start to turn their focus vertically, down towards this Cincinnati Bearcats site hold, because they're not being forced out of position whatsoever. They are playing patient and they are playing comfortable. If you allow them to continue to do so, you're going to get caught out and time is going to become a factor.
That wall's still entirely electrified. RIT are running out of time on that second floor to find enough success for pressure downward. They're going to have to start to pivot down to the first floor, maybe work in through that initial Skylight Hall and just pray that moving in through Memorial will be the right idea. If that doesn't work, maybe in from dining entrance could be another option for them, but 18 seconds left. Dan, they're still breaching the floorboard, trying to gain a level of safety, and that still falls short. Kodiak with the 416C takes down Cassiopeia. Zeph's made a ton of noise with the Selma, now breaking through the barbed wire, but they've gone in through pantry and got control of kitchen. Pyro finds a shot back. Zeph squeaks one in out of nowhere, and now it's just Penguin remaining. They try to isolate the player in kitchen, but it falls short. Limited time, and yet still a gorgeous take of that site. If only the alibi wasn't sitting on their cams.
Also a question mark for Cincinnati. Why have everybody away from kitchen? Sure, you want to err a little bit more towards dining, but somebody in a healthy corner of kitchen towards that pantry side will help you more often than it won't, or at least more often than it'll hurt you. And leaving that entire side open probably costs them the round. You put one player on that side, you take out the diffuser, with 1 second left, you win the round in and of itself. Done, dusted, down the drain. We're looking at a 4-1 scoreline. But now, RIT able to catch you off guard and honestly play the lack of time to their advantage, which is not something you see all that often on an attacking side. that turns that entire round scope the other way, and probably costs the Bearcats what could be a 5-1 halftime split. Of course, assuming they win again here on Trophy Statuary, they are, of course, 1-1 on the site as they've played it this far.
Cincinnati opted to go back to Trophy and Statuary. Dan, they looked good on this site. I would dare say the last time we saw it was a steal by RIT.
10 seconds left.
The player squeaking through the Syria gate and catching Duck Duck off guard on the objective.
5
That's
seconds.
literally the only reason why we see Cincinnati lose that round.
Attackers are
Do they get
moving out to
as
locate a
lucky as
bomb.
before? Do they pull off what they couldn't do the first time we saw them?
They could certainly say third time's the charm and make it 2 for 3 on this defensive side here in Trophy Statuary. The problem for RIT, again, is having that overall clearance. And there is a switch here. Dillian is going on the Zofia. And the weird setup here for Cincinnati is, do they catch that off with the utility denial? Duck Duck is on the castle. Now, we saw this in the previous round. Not out of the blue by any means, but curious decision on a site like Trophy Statuary. Yeah, sure, you can eliminate a lot of important angles. Number one, you just saw the 90 window. The second, as we've seen in rounds prior, over towards that main door into Statuary. But when that utility is taken care of, what do you do with the castle? Apparently, if you're Duck Duck, play aggressive, as we've seen in rounds prior. This time on the bottom floors, they're looking to flex their UMP 45 vertically, rather than maybe.
Which is interesting. We'll give it that. We'll highlight it as that. Duck Duck has the clinical talent necessary to make the UMP work. Any shot to the head will kill, but the UMP is absolutely a pea shooter. It is going to do, at best, act like a BB gun if you can't connect to the head. Kodiak's in a very cheeky angle.
No way.
I don't believe that this will work. I think that their position is ever so slightly known, but apparently not. But they still can't get the kill. Gamer coming out on top of that engagement. That means the nades in their pocket, the only nades that RIT have opted to bring out here in this round, will continue to be viable for them. Duck Duck has now moved under the classical 90 hatch in here in toilet, and is maybe hoping that there could be a chance of a player dropping through.
Drop the bomb to
But as soon as that is more likely than not going to happen, he'll foregone that conclusion and go ahead and rotate over through Astronomy Staircase and maybe hope to assist Dark Matter, who has 4 players, if not 5, all in total, barreling down towards their trophy entry.
This is another situation, though. Even though RIT have found that single kill, of which now has been returned by Duck Duck, who walked up red stairs and is now fallen away, there's only 45 seconds left in the round. Presto finds a shot through the barricade set up on the bathroom door and is able to find the man advantage off the back of it. Penguins still yet to be cleared from the exact same position they've played 2 out of 2 times on a Trophy Statuary defense, and Presto Dragon not being forced out either. The final 30 seconds here for RIT need to be quick, and they just do not have the time to stall as they're doing right now.
Penguin taking a huge look at damage to the lifeline sent out by Dillian. Duck Duck will avenge that damage, closing out Dillian's life with that UMP we highlighted previously. And as soon as Cassiopeia just tries to swing in through that statuary door frame, it is a close cut shot from cross field with Duck Duck securing. And it leaves just Pyro. What are you going to do? Swing the same doorway through trophy entrance, and that Mossberg, the clothesline, as you called it, sends their bodies flying back against the brick wall. It is a clear-cut victory and a much better one. Easily the best one we saw from Cincinnati, I think, in that half in terms of actually getting those gunfights in the later stages. That will secure them a 4-2 split, a lot like we saw in Chalet.
Yeah, but this time it's on the defensive side. So RIT have some way back into this. Of course, A, it is their own map selection. B, they're on the defensive side of a notably defender-sided map. But C, and maybe against them, considering it is the Cincinnati Bearcats and their logo has a C in it, they looked pretty good on Chalet, all things considered. All 4 of the first 4 rounds went in their favor. They opened up well in seemingly every single instance of their attack, with regards to maybe the last 2, but even then it was negligible at best. And RIT's defensive setup has to be clean off the rip. And I'm curious to see how this composition works, because they're bringing a Bandit instead of a Cade, of which is viable, which would honestly look more like a Bandit trick setup, but instead they're just going to throw 3 Bandit batteries on the south side of the map, or north side of the map. Interesting decision, if I do say so myself. Unless they're not. They only threw one there? Where's that bandit battery on the north side? What? Did you just throw one on the wall?
Yeah, you only need one there.
No. I meant like the north side trophy statuary. I thought he was going to put 3 on the master wall.
There's one placed on vault. There's one placed
Oh,
on
the vault.
study
That's where I
wall,
missed it.
And there's one placed...
Okay.
Oh, there goes the last one as well. Placed over on the bar wall connecting to study. So,
Okay.
not relying on the Kaid, giving you a little bit better of a gun as well as a nitro cell, which, to be fair, you note right above those walls connecting bar and study. That is soft, right above the reinforcements, meaning break those open. While yes, it will be audibly available. That means you can toss a nitro cell over the top and find a kill. However, that's not what we're seeing come out from Cassiopeia. Nitro cell's tossed early, and it even finds Penguin at the other end of it. A shocking result. Cassiopeia fleeing for their life, but unfortunately not being allowed the total escape that they were wanting. Duck DBNOs Cassiopeia. And while yes, they may still be alive, they're in no man's land, Dan. It just isn't feasible for the revive.
No, Dylan can't afford to go for it, and Duck will make sure it is a foregone conclusion. Cincinnati trade 1-for-1 off the bat, but lose Penguin in the process. Ballsy play from Gamer, of which is shut down. Running across a double wide door, of which you know is being held. Maybe not the most confident of decisions played, but one that costs them regardless. And RIT in the first 80 seconds of the round are down 2. They have lost 2, but still have brought a kill back. And sure have a shot at this, but they still need to turn some real estate back in their favor, and most importantly, a kill as well.
Duck with the Gemini replicator cleared away. Still has one nade in the back pocket. 120 seconds. Oh, technically 80 seconds left on the clock. And Cincinnati have built up quite a lot of pressure. Crack Singers go down. That's once again Presto bringing out the gridlock, which if there's any map you typically see gridlock brought out onto the board here, Dan, it is typically Villa or Cafe. It was kind of shocking to see it be brought, earlier on Chalet. But, if it works, it works. The Zeph in a very dangerous spot as the vault wall will be breached open. They'll force to transition out over towards Aviation. They should go for that close swing, but here's Pyro seemingly sneaking out of the woodworks and catching Kodiak off guard, but still can't find the kill. Instead, it's Dillian to pounce next. Presto Dragon losing their head in the process. 30 seconds ticking away. Zeph holding next to Vault 4, throwing out the Toxic Babes. But RIT are quickly running out of those, and Cincinnati have multiple options in which they could take to get in towards the site.
Seems like Vault's going to be that option. Kodiak looking to walk in. They are the bait in this instance. They have limited utility, the extent of which is an EMP and Claymores, none of which will play a further part in this round, nor will they. But look at Zeph just walking in! Dark Matter turned their headphones off, and Zeph finds all 3! Duck caught out just the same. A game of hide-and-go-seek with a gas mask. And RIT win the first round of the second half.
I want to let that one sit. I truly just want to let that one sit and mellow. There's not much more you can add. I mean, a huge blunder by Cincinnati. That's what we'll say. We can drop it there, but what would be the fun and not at least taking some talk out of that fight? They have multiple options to go for the plant. Yes, the Toxic Babes are cutting down the angle at which you can step in through that bus door. But you know what you have? Vault open. So that's where Cincinnati perused their options towards. The issue was Kodiak saw Zeph. Kodiak saw them through the soft wall that was broken between games and Aviation. And what did he do? Still looked to bar before hoping and watching the vault door. You see the man and still look the other way. By then, it's Cincinnati's own comeuppance that cost them the end of that round. And it could have, I can't say that. It went as worse as it possibly could. The worst case scenario by far of both players just not keying in that Zeph is behind them. He thinks he's part of the team, and he most definitely is not. That is by far a huge blunder for Cincinnati. And RIT will be very happy with that end result when it looked like Cincinnati had given themselves a very solid chance to go for the plan.
I'm going to make one final comment on this for the sole reason that it's tax season. Zeph had enough time to reload both weapons, do his taxes, apply for student loans next semester, and still have a conversation with his mom about how his day is before he took that second fight.
Healthy habits.
He was just looking down as well. It was a long periodically time. And yes, I said that intentionally. Go look up the meme. It's very fun for all of you unfamiliar. But Cincinnati, they're changing things up, and drastically at that. Duck's going to go back on the Dekebi, not unheard of by any means, but Presto Dragon bringing in a Brava. And what on the defensive side would lead you to a Brava other than a mute jammer, or maybe, I'm going to say, possibly kinda wanting to take default cameras?
I would say the mute jammers if they're visible, but I don't believe they'd be made visible for your clutch. It just doesn't seem like something that RIT would just let happen. ADSs are a very big viable option. Yes, means that you don't have to have a Rotero to swing forward. But I'd still prefer the Flores here because the Flores can also clear shields, of which there are 3 available for RIT. You can't steal a shield, buddy. The clutch drone doesn't have that much potential. Good news is there are no Syria gates. Technically, you can steal it, but it still stays up. That is the one downside to it, I guess. I don't agree with the Brava choice, but you do get the shorting.
They just changed it.
Did they?
The Syria gates actually turn to the attackers now, as of Tuesday morning.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
That's what they put. They put that in the beta, like the original test servers when you were able to play at the 6 Invitational. And then they didn't implement it for the first, I don't know, what, month and a half, 2 months? Now they have. But gamers, Penguin's dead, so there goes your Sophia. That's not a great start. Bravo or not.
No, it is not. Gamer's still holding the same position, though, that they were just in moments prior when they dealt with Penguin, from the crossfire connecting over towards that walk-in closet. That statuary door frame leading to master bedroom is dangerous. That's why we're seeing Cincinnati try to change things up. Drone right in front. Their own drone right in front, might I add. But the barbed wire will make plenty of noise if they're not careful. Toxic Babes and out. Zeph is playing the smoke fairly far forward, and Cincinnati are maybe running out of time. They've got to escalate this situation, and they're losing players with Pyro taking down Duck.
Double smoke over top. I think they should know Presto's here, but nice flick across on the rotate back. The final 30 seconds here looking pretty good, all things considered, but Presto misses their opportunity, and Dillian gets the kill on the Kodiak. A follow-up as well from themselves, as it's Pyro to technically find the final kill. I believe it was a down for a down across the master door, and a down for a down makes the whole world drown. Edited version of the saying.
There's a fountain. That count?
There's a fountain. It's close enough. Waterboarding. I think that's a thing. The Mafia probably owns this anyway.
Timeout being called by Cincinnati. Damn. This is about the time. They've seen 2 out of the 3 possible objectives brought out here for RIT. Maybe would have been smart for them to wait for one more and try it for the third to at least get an understanding of how every objective will play out. Now they're going to be heading into this next round completely blind, same as they were heading into round 1 and 2 of the second half. So maybe a mistake there, but it at least stops RIT from having that momentum, which in the collegiate scene, Dan, I would argue may just be the most important factor for success. Stopping the snowball effect early.
RIT's honestly looked pretty good on this defensive side as well. Removing the Zeph confrontation that was still around, that was limited time remaining, and Cincinnati had descended. Even if you find the kill into Zeph, and you're probably not doing so in a clean fashion, you're still worried about both vault door entrances. You're probably being cleared from the study entrance just the same. There were more problems there. And in the previous round, it was another instance of RIT delaying Cincinnati. Even with that setup control around Astro, there was not enough comfortability for that Cincinnati attack to say, hey, I can confidently press the go button without too many risks of losing bodies in the process. And that extra delay and the unfortunate miss kill across that we saw that could have come through onto Gamer on that master door, in the end probably cost them the round, but all in all it was still a round where you say there was not enough time to say this could have gone our way. And that has to change for Cincinnati. These 2 attacking rounds seem far from what we saw in the earlier sides of Chalet, where they were confident, they took the fights they needed to early, and most importantly, they didn't let the clock become effect.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse.
Cincinnati now having to pressure in towards kitchen and dining, like we highlighted moments prior about being a very solid objective here, and maybe not your favorite, but mine. Zeph will not have a vault at which they can use stealth. Maybe that's the term we'll use for it, to I don't know, maybe they rolled a nat 20 on their stealth roll. I don't know what it is, but Zeph won't have that opportunity, at least hopefully here, to catch Cincinnati off guard. Cincinnati are going to opt for a master bedroom take. Let's also keep in mind, RIT have done a beautiful job of forcing a huge time sink against Cincinnati. They failed at that egregiously last map on Chalet. They did horrendous, to be frank with them. They did not do a great job of forcing a time sink. It has been the total opposite conclusion here for the few rounds we've seen. Cincinnati are pushing in the final 20 to 30 seconds. 45 seconds if they're lucky, and even then they don't have much control past that point. They started to pressure through Astronomy Staircase with 35 seconds remaining down. That is a horrible amount of time needed to clear shield, player, and the crossfire coming out from Statuary Master Bedroom door. And while yes, they had a pincer with 2 players moving, it's not enough. RIT with a wonderful shot. That's Dillian there to Dark Matter. They get a double swing back around that corner, and though they do find a refrag back, Dillian shuts down Kodiak, forcing Duck to turn tail and turn the other way before blasting their toes from underneath. It's Pyro the Nitro Cell top.
And a 3v2. 90 seconds gone, and just like that, half the round and half the players gone just the same, and problems now mounting for Cincinnati. They are playing in a 2 versus 3, sure. I don't know why Gamer just walked into explosives, but I suppose you do you, my friend, to each their own. Pyro now walking into asphyxiation fire sitting at their feet, but they just don't care. It's a lot of pressure being applied from up above, from multiple different angles as well, considering the Zofia has used their final breach charge. But Cincinnati, even with this man advantage, is still applying a healthy amount of pressure and forcing this RIT defense out and away from comfortable spots.
Last cluster charge going down here. They may be waiting to detonate it until they have pressure and complete clear sightline in through Laundry, would be my best guesstimation. But I think they've opted to take that back a second. Maybe moving it over here towards Kitchen. This, unfortunately, I think is the wrong idea. Only one player is there. Yes, Gamer is somewhat close, but you want to clear the players towards Memo. You'll drop through Laundry. You'll get a crossfire over towards Kitchen and clearing away Tetris. And then from there, you can clear the players that are in Memo without even needing to pressure them. At the very least, it buys you time. They'll drop in a Laundry hatch for Master Bedroom Dan. Time of the essence. They're still having to breach the wall. There is no opening towards. Fire from the Vulcan canister down on the ground. No chance to fight back. Penguin will fall, and Presto will meet them in the afterlife as RIT will climb to a positive round count.
I don't think they saw the Vulcan canister.
Did not.
We saw it running in with about 80 seconds and change remaining, and then a Vulcan canister exploded as Gamer shot both the Vulcan canister itself and the drone. And that was shot with about 22-ish seconds left, and each one of those Vulcan canisters with 20 seconds of efficacy basically shut down. There was no way in for Cincinnati. They tried to blow open that wall, which ended up being their Achilles heel, as they quite literally were shot in it, courtesy of the UMP-45 from Pyro. It was a risky play, especially with so little time remaining. I would have appreciated more of a face check, let's take the fights, rather than play with way too much information. Because in the end, the information you gained was not worth the time that it cost you, and even with the damage done from up above, there just was not enough for that Cincinnati attack, as RIT successfully and flawlessly complete the rotation on the defensive side.
Cincinnati have just looked poor, Dan. To be brutally honest, they've not found a round for themselves since halftime switch. Their attack has looked lackluster. Their defense was positive, but like you said before, Villa tends to be defensive favorite. Where are the few rounds that they get squeaked through? Where's the 2 rounds that RIT took defensively, or sorry, attacking wise, that now Cincinnati need to meet and match? They're nowhere to be found. They'll head back into this round, though. It is, in fact, a Plains and Games defense coming out for RIT. Cincinnati bringing out once again Presto on that gridlock, the exothermic in the hands of Dark Matter. Same with the diffuser, and they'll opt for the Rotero drone instead of having to use that clutch drone for, I guess, util theft. Just destroy it. You don't need to steal it. Just take the dang thing for yourself. No, get rid of it. You're not going to use a Surrogate. You're not going to use a banded battery. Just destroy the dang thing and the shields first and foremost. That's where we see Cincinnati play best. They like to get in the face, and that's what Duck does. Unfortunately, a refrag back goes the other way.
Yeah, but Dillion's still just playing patient. They've been cleared out of position. They're well aware of where Dillion currently lies, and Penguin, with the proactivity, takes the fight and the kill back. So still positive overall here for the Bearcats' attack, and with only a minute gone, they've cleared the entirety of the roam that was previously set up. Gamer, trying to retake some real estate, has done so around towards 90, but the extent of the map that RIT now holds possession of is honestly what was given to them to start with. The sites and what's directly around it. Cincinnati can play a little bit more patient now, but they cannot get complacent. We've seen in rounds prior them find a few kills here and there and then slow down a little bit too much. That has to change in this round.
Pyro also locking in the Echo for this round. That means the Yokai drone is available for a post-plant or denial of plant scenario for the side of RIT. Gamer inside Classical 90 cannot escape. It's Penguin on a rush with the assistance from a player from Window Repel. Gorgeous, like you said. And Cincinnati are back in their forte. A two-man advantage, something I don't think we've seen from them since Chalet in the first place. So the exothermic charge will finally go down. They'll force Zeph away from Vault as a whole, and now they'll need to lock down that billiards door frames more specifically. Pyro cut off from landing. There goes Penguin for the 3K, and it's just Zeph who needs to roll an at 20 all over again to hope that they can sneak their way through for more kills.
So walk forward, again looking the wrong way. Dark Matter finds one. Kodiak, caught on a drone, somehow survives the engagement. But Zeph has brought it to a 1v3, has all three of their toxic pigs remaining, and time is shrinking for this Cincinnati attack. Fortunately, Kodiak just proned where they were seen prior and held the angle, patiently awaiting Zeph's overzealousness, of which is caught out of position, and Cincinnati go from a round down to tying us right back up.
Nothing's more tantalizing than a player you had already almost killed. Just re-swing it, the voice in the back
Story
of
of
your
my
head
life.
says. Just go
The
for
story
the kill,
of my life.
the voice in the back of your head says. And unfortunately, it's not the angel, it's the devil, and it led to their demise. Cincinnati will find themselves finally tying things back up. 5-5 our scoreline here on Villa. And we're heading over to the trophy and statuary side. Cincinnati, most of their approaches, Dan, have been in through Master Bedroom as well as through Astronomy. Duck netting one kill at the beginning of that last round before falling. Dillion taking a frag back the other way before falling themselves. Cincinnati do like Master Bedroom. We've seen them. That is like their go-to entry. Master Bathroom and Bedroom. Maybe walk-in closet if they're feeling different. We've not seen them take the idea that we saw from RIT, which was, if it's trophy and statuary, let's take study and veranda. If it's lands and games, let's take Master Bedroom. It's pretty much one strategy for entry coming out for Cincinnati, and I think they need to diversify.
And setting the tone here, we didn't really bring this up earlier on, but now that it's 5-5 and these games have been nearly as close as they have been, Cincinnati Red was in a conference with Davenport, Kettering, Southern Miss, University of the Cumberlands, and UCM, which is University of Central Missouri. The only teams they beat in that conference were University of the Cumberlands and University of Central Missouri. That's it. They lost to Southern Miss, Kettering, and Davenport. That's why they were 2-3. On the other side, RIT, the only teams they lost to in their conference were James Madison and St. Clair, both of whom are ranked higher than them, understandably so, and looking good coming out of the round of 12. But they were able to take down OTSU, Stonechild, IVC, and the University of North Dakota, all in order just to get the seeding they had, much less now try and win this series, as we're tied at 1 apiece, or tied at 5 apiece, with them up a map.
Cincinnati's had a bit of a tough time getting here is what you're getting at, Dan. At least a rougher time.
Yeah, a little bit.
A rougher time. Sometimes you get bracket blessed, would maybe be a phrase for it, of who you get in your conference and who you have to deal with initially. Sometimes it's not the case. But Cincinnati are looking to say, hey, our main season stat line isn't indicative of who we are. We can take that a team that's arguably rated higher than us, at least in terms of their competitive stat line. Need to open up the wall just a little bit wider for Cincinnati, making it so much more difficult for RIT to effectively hold Aviation. No one's swinging out to take control of that repel window towards Bust. Maybe they step up towards the Master Bedroom balcony and hold it from there. But it does just seem like Cincinnati have fallen back on their laurel and said, well, Master Bedroom's our go-to. Let's just send it back this way.
they've completely foregone that clearance, which RIT is still dedicated a decent bit of manpower and utility too. Very lucky to be alive is Zeph, who still wields all three of their toxic babes, and most importantly, the remainder of their health in their favor. But Kodiak is already inside of Master, at least inside of the Master bathroom, and Duck Duck finishes off what they started. Now a minute left, a 5v4 here for Cincinnati, but they are directly on the cusp of taking site. The problem is, a flank possibly now being set up, but Pyro is demolished by Duck Duck as they make it a 5v3.
Duck Duck with a little bit of assistance close by. Kodiak, Crossfire may be ready to defend them from that trophy side, but Duck Duck does not need any help when it comes towards statuary. The other end of their barrel, finding yet another victim. Dillian with a wide swing. Great flick down to Duck Duck's head, but they will be DB&O, leaving just Cassiopeia already dealing with one. Needs to find 3 more. As Dark Matter starts to plant the diffuser, they swing for the kill, but Penguin still gets the upper hand as Cassiopeia will fall. Round 1, foregone conclusion, in Cincinnati have somehow, someway crawled their way back into this series. Initially tied, then behind, then back up, match point now for them.
One round between them and taking on Davenport, a problem now for RIT. What do you change? And the answer is your bomb site. A brief recollection, just 3 rounds prior, all the way back to round number 9. It was close, but not quite here for Cincinnati. They had 2 players within 20 HP of death in a 2v3, they being RIT. But the problem for Cincinnati was time. They took too long, and unfortunately, that 6th man for the defensive side activated and took a stranglehold on the round. That and a few Vulcan canisters and some shots over top. Brief note before we move on to match point. Extra Life here for one of our sponsors in the NACE Star League. Changing kids' health and changing the future. You can join our support team and super team page today. If you scroll down a little bit in your Twitch tab and look at our Extra Life tab, just click the link and they will take you to sign up. Honestly, super cool people. I've checked out Extra Life back in December and was able to work with them a little bit with NACE as well. Honestly, just an awesome company that I think has gone a little undervalued in the esports scene.
Pivoting back towards the game at hand, Dan. Last time we saw Cincinnati call a timeout, it was after we saw, I guess it may have been first half. Cincinnati struggled the most. This is what I'll get at, straight to the point here. They struggled the most when it came to kitchen and dining. That 2B 100% frank. They thought they had something, and then it fell short. They didn't clear angles. They didn't clear Vulcan canisters. They fell victim to a lot of the post-denial destruction, such as those nitro cells, that were really in the pocket of RIT. They're going to do it again. Pulse on the board. What are you going to do against that cardiac sensor? Jinxie, showcased here. 3 nitro cells as well in the pocket for the team as a whole. On top of that, you got even more information available to RIT because Solus squeaked her way through the band fade. Meaning you can't even drone safely, let alone exist safely, with Pulse and Solus constantly being able to ping you for the team.
The RIT is playing patient as well. Even with that Solus on the board, they're not over-aggressing in any of this map. They are slowing themselves down and most importantly, controlling the fights they take. And Cincinnati split a little bit of this defense. You can see them trying to penetrate on the west side on the first floor. Kodiak, waiting on the bottom floor, catches Dillian off. That's a VIP down as well. The Solus, possibly the difference maker, and Cassiopeia is taken care of as well. In the span of 10 seconds, Cincinnati's been risking losing control to now up 2 players with half the round remaining.
How do you come back from this? Thankfully, every player that had a nitro cell, Dan, is still alive. Though Zeph is treading on dangerous water. Maybe trying to doggy paddle in the middle of the ocean. Unfortunately, he'll tire out quickly. Floor pressure finally brewing up for Cincinnati. Here go the oh-so-effective fuse charges, making haste and quick work of the floorboards as well as just the utility left on site. One of the reasons why kitchen dining has fallen back to being more of a tertiary choice. So much destruction is available. No more of those charges left for your fuse. The canister's no longer here, but neither is Dark Matter as Pyro finally picks up first blood for RIT.
1 kill back, but still 30 seconds left on the clock. More than enough for Cincinnati with this man advantage, most importantly, to push off of what they've previously gained. Kodiak hears a C4 rip, but it does not go out. At least it does not explode. A follow-up attempt from Zeph whiffs just the same, and Presto drops into Laundry and drops Zeph into a very early grave. The shots through the wall, they land for damage. The follow-up to the head of Pyro lands for lethality, and it's down to Gamer in a 1 versus 3. They've been the hero before. They need to be so again, and they cannot live up to the challenge. Cincinnati, it takes them all of regulation on RIT's map pick, but they will indeed close it out, and they do so in just 2 maps time.
Took a lot out of Cincinnati to make that comeback. Let's keep in mind that half ended 4-2, and it became 5-4 as quick as that. Seemingly out of nowhere, RIT pulled off what seemed impossible after the first map of Chalet, and the result and playstyle that we kind of gleaned off of that map as a whole. But Cincinnati pulled it off. They stopped the comeback. They stopped the bleeding, the hemorrhaging, might I say. They called in a doctor to stitch them up. We talked about surgeons on map 1. They came through in map 2 and brought Cincinnati back to life. Much needed, as they'll close and secure 2-0 to move on.
I have to say I'm a little surprised as well as to how Cincinnati was able to regain what they had lost. You talked about it being 4-2. I'll double down. It was 4-2, and RIT won the first 3 rounds of the second half. They went on a streak, and Cincinnati was nowhere to be found. And then out of absolutely nowhere, like a Thanos snap back to existence, they walked away with the map. A first round to really set the tone, a follow-up to put them on to match and series point, and then of course what you just saw, the dominance and the chaos playing in their favor, walking in from every angle seemingly at the exact same time, and Presto Dragon finding a few fortuitous kills nonetheless. The pickups were there, as were the kills, and then in the end, the rounds when they were needed, the clutch factor for Cincinnati, and the lack thereof for RIT.
Cincinnati just were built different by the end of the day. Let's be totally frank. We called it out at map 1 at halftime. They were just playing better. They were just the better team. And while, yes, we did see it fall back ever so slightly the other way for RIT, the conclusion was still readily available and ready to us with our eyes at the end of Chalet. This one was a lot closer. And Dan, what a series to end it on. Yes, we don't get to see the map that really upsets the best of them, but we at least got to have 2 good ones back to back.
I'm happy. And honestly, the second map being as close as it was and as back and forth as we saw, with RIT showing up early and then completely foregoing a few rounds just to come back with a vengeance, the signs of life were there, unfortunately not when they needed it to send it to a third map. We're gonna go to a break. When we come back, a close to the show and an interview with the winning team in a little bit. A 2-0 victory for the University of Cincinnati, dropping Rochester Institute of Technology and setting themselves up against the 1-seeded Davenport University here in the NACE Star League Spring 2023 playoffs. We have an interview with Presto Dragon, seemingly the hero of the final round. I'll start things off, Presto, with probably the simplest of questions. How do you feel after victory, and what got you to that late point in the final round of play?
I mean, we feel pretty great about the victory. You know, it's a win's a win. And that final point, it was a little closer than we thought it would be, but we did end up getting there in the end.
And seemingly the learning factor for you guys was a continuous basis for your playstyle. You lost all of the first 3 rounds on Villa in the second half. You needed to come back, and I think most importantly, you learned that time was not on your side in the later stages. Tell me what changed between rounds 9 on Kitchen Dining and then round 12 on Kitchen Dining to really set the tone and close out the tone to finish off the series.
So with that one, we realized that they didn't really play into the other side of the map at all. Like, living was completely clear, so we decided to just go that direction instead. We didn't want to deal with the 3 nitros that they had. So we pressured that side, took mem wall and all that, and I went upstairs to essentially bait out the other nitros while they pressured site. And we kind of, throughout Villa, we definitely took the rounds that we lost and learned from them, and then we won the next time they went there, you know?
Question for me, I'll send 2 your way before handing it back over to Dan. First one, y'all's performance on Chalet was not only beautiful, but was something we were expecting to come out on Villa a lot more, but we didn't see it really get highlighted until the later stages. The first 2 rounds, though, is what I talk about on Chalet. It took you guys only a minute and a half in round 2 to find all of the utility that they had on the defense before taking site, and it took you just slightly longer than that in the first round. How easy was it for you guys? Because it sure looked easy. How easy was it for you guys to completely dismantle them defensively in the early stages before they could counteract?
It definitely felt pretty easy. We kind of just, it felt like we were just walking in, but we definitely did play together with all the info. You know, a bunch of setup drones, a bunch of crossfire setup, and we also have played Chalet quite a lot. We know it really well, as you can see. As compared to Villa, though, we're still a little rough on it, but we're working there.
Gonna bring that point over towards Villa. You guys did a wonderful job on Chalet. Getting those first bloods, cutting off the isolated players, they did adjust a little bit to, you know, not allow you to do that towards the end of it. But Villa, you didn't really get the opportunity to do that. I remember just a couple rounds prior when you were pushing towards Statuary and towards Trophy, you guys initially started to move in from Veranda, and about a minute and a half mark, you guys completely escaped the map and rotated back towards Master Bedroom. Was that a choice set in stone from the beginning? Just when a certain amount of time is remaining, pivot? Or was that just you knew that they'd be extended, try to punish the players that are going to be isolated on site?
So the first time around, we just saw that they had a ton of util, and we just decided to flip. And although we did make the right choice, in my opinion, we kind of just, I guess, flopped. We didn't push directly in a good way. And so the second time around, when we did it again, because we were just kind of testing the waters to see how much they extended again, we fixed those errors and corrected it, and, you know, won the direct push from Master.
And you were talking about your learning experience on Villa, a little bit on Chalet as well, where you picked that into the second half. I want to talk a little bit more of a broad sense. You've taken the series, you're moving on to the quarterfinals to take on Davenport, a team you have lost to in a previous series. Talk to me about what you've learned from that, and of course, without spoiling a little bit too much of your playbook, because this is live on stream, tell me about what you need to change as you move on to Saturday.
So we've faced Davenport twice so far. And it's definitely a big team to face against. So we have a lot of things that we need to change as a team, just to focus on how they play and, you know, what their style is like. Because we did beat them once on one map at the UK LAN, and then we lost to them on the next 2 maps. So if we can pull something out like that again, I think we could take it. It's definitely going to be a big challenge, though.
Challenge indeed, and one that is only 2 days away. Final thoughts from you? Any final thoughts in the series? Any shout-outs you want to put out? The floors are yours before we wrap things up.
GG's to RIT White, and go Bearcats.
Bearcats will move on to Saturday with a victory. Thank you very much for joining us, Presto Dragon, and again, congratulations on the victory. Scott, still more Siege to play, but not tonight. Before we wrap things up and move on to play on Saturday afternoon, any final thoughts from you on the Cincinnati RIT White?
Good job, RIT White. Go Bearcat. I think that was summed up best by Presto Dragon. A great series, a little bit rough around the edges when it came to Villa, but hey, you got 2 days to really bring a sand grinder to it and roughen and smooth out those edges, so to say. So I think this one's going to be another great series for when it comes down to Saturday.
Saturday, just a few days away. Some housekeeping things to take care of. All of our quarterfinals matchups have been decided. St. Clair Saints just beat Drexel Rainbow Six on Clubhouse and Cafe in that order. They win 2-0 and will play Kettering University Varsity. We just talked about it. Cincinnati, the 9 seed, take down RIT, the 8 seed, and will take on Davenport R6 Red on Saturday as well. Butler will play TMU, and James Madison will play GVSU R6 Blue on that exact same day. But the time already guaranteed. 4 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Nace Star League 3. Just go up to your URL bar, add a 3, and wait, 40 hours or so if you want to watch that matchup. And of course, come right back here tomorrow for Valorant and Counter-Strike matches. Valorant here, Counter-Strike on the B stream. But that's it here for us in the round of 12 in the Nace Star League Rainbow Six Siege Spring 2023 playoffs. I've been Time to Light. That very handsome man over there has been Buzz Lightyear, I means Infernosis, and we've had Furman and I, Major Nova, running production in the background. We'll see you for some more matches tomorrow and Saturday for some more playoff action.